The field is in control of your championship leader, Valtteri Alander. We hit the start zone. We go green flag racing for round 4 of this ISOWC season. Already a rocket of a jump from the leader, but look at this, almost 3 wide. Gustav Grimbergers looking to the inside line. He has to fall back into line and now in towards this fountain section. It's 3 wide further back. It's single file down through the fountain. Joshua Chin defending from Peter Zuba. As we come in through turn number 4, Lewis, I think we've gotten through this first lap safely.
As here we go, Oscar Mangan being defended by Adam Blocker. He's got to do it around the outside of turn 1. Should be able to make this one stick, using it all the way up to the pit exit, and does go around the outside. Wasn't hard fought by Adam Blocker, so smart stuff, but Oscar Mangan up to 2nd place. But after one core racing car's gone by, I think the other one is about to do so. Janssen making yet another move. This time it's certainly not fought by Adam Blocker, and we've got 2 core cars, 2nd and 3rd.
All in turn 4. Riley Thompson is around in the 56 car.
Big.
Debris sliding across the track as well, and yellow flag immediately waves for Riley Thompson. He'll have to come down pit road and see the extent of the damage. Potentially there as well, just a bit too much of the inside curb, Lewis. Of course, pit lane not yet open because we haven't. Oh, no, apparently it is. Here comes one of the Sim Esports car.
Whoa.
Oh, and he's just realized that it's not, in fact, open. I wonder if there's going to be a penalty. I think it's the 111 of Gustav Grimbergers. Let's go ahead straight to the replay, Lewis. This is going to be a fascinating onboard. Valtteri Alander fakes the field out. What an interesting call. Here comes everyone else. Yasheet stays out. Pedro Sanchez Albert is followed in by Graham Saunders. There comes the Simsa Esports cars. I am totally confused as to what Valtteri Alander is doing here. Go back to green flag action, and I tell you what, for Valtteri Alander, he's controlled the race so far. Can he continue to control it? Here we go, green flag back out with 4 cars on a quite befuddling pit strategy. Alander, Vaz, Ellis, Espity, and Andra are the top 5. So, as Alander's down on pit lane, the race leader has had to come down. And this is why this is such an interesting call that he didn't come down the last time around, Lewis. Pierre Verne around at the hairpin. Is he going to be able to find a spot to bring that car back? Oh, he's having to back up right now. I wonder if there's damage to the 62 car for race clutch. Yeah, yellow flag is out because unfortunately Pierre Verne unable to spin that car around. This blows things completely wide open. Spice, like you said, Lewis, it's in the air here in Long Beach.
And more.
That's Syandra, who I think has tried to roll that car back out onto track. Yellow flag will have to wave.
Just a bit too late into turn 1. And
when it's Alex Ellis, 24 positions gained. Pace car is down. It's VRS Satellite Racing at the front, but look out for Brian Carey. He put it on pole the last time the iRacing IndyCar Open Championship was here.
There's a bit of a mistake there from Vaz. This might be the position for Oscar Mangan. We've seen it go around the outside on the inside of 9, whichever way you can make it stick. He's got to the inside, and he's got the position done on the 89. Vaz did not fight that one. Just a little bit too slow onto East Seaside Way, and that is the position sorted. See if Janssen can also get through shortly.
Oh! Vaz lights up the rear end. There's contact with Carl Janssen. He spun into pit road.
That's a caution.
This is surely a caution, but I tell you what, that is heartbreak for Yao Vaz, who was trying something different. There we go. The inevitable has happened. We are back under yellow flag conditions.
If it goes green from this point, I think you're looking at not making it. It'll be tight, but I think you're looking at not making it. Next round, but we've got plenty of action to keep us thrilled. Ellis under attack from Walton.
Once more, battle for the net race lead comes into turn 1. Ellis is able to hold on, and this time I think arrests his momentum just that little bit more. Realizes that he was a bit close to disaster. As look at that, Walton tries because Grimbergers is applying pressure side by side. The teammates go, and Gustav Grimbergers gets the place done.
That there is going to be at least some form of damage on Ellis's car. There's huge stuff between the teammates.
And I think that was Walton just missing the braking zone.
Focus on Valtteri Alander. Is it Alander's mistake? Yes, it is.
A mistake from the championship leader. There will be a penalty to come down on that one, I would have to think. And the championship is blown wide open here, Lewis. We are back to the green flag action. 21 laps to go. It is wide open, and the King of Chins making his way through. There goes Grimbergers, forces the issue. He's to the pointy end of things. Ellis on the button, trying to respond. Grimbergers defends with his second final use. One more defense from Grimberg as Alex Ellis is going to be all over the rear wing, side by side once more. And just like we saw a lap ago, the car in the lead, giving no space to the car behind. Oh, side by side for second position. Adam Blocker and Alex Ellis. There's almost contact as they cross the start-finish line. They're both on the button. 13 laps to go. Gustav Grimberg 2 seconds clear. Ellis defends for now. Blocker almost tries the over-under. This is heating up, and I think Blocker needs to get on past ASAP.
A track to pass that. It's one that you can pass at, but it's being defended brilliantly as Oscar Mangan now gets by Pierre Verne, who's dropped down also past Austin Espety as well for good measure. There's the dive. That's a little bit too much, though. That is a little bit too much from Blocker. Brian Kerry's also going to get through. That was a dive into the hairpin. I've seen that a couple of times from Adam Blocker, although that, I'd say, is potentially a touch too far. Sorry,
Lewis, back to the live coverage. Blocker has been crashed. We are back under yellow. I believe Blocker might have got a slowdown penalty coming down East Seaside Way. He triggers a chain reaction. Gustav Grimberg picks up the throttle. We are racing from Long Beach once more.
Brian Kerry here, who's not on the button. This is the run into turn 2. This could be really big for the Irishman. Dives it to the inside and gets that one clear up into second position with a push to pass to spare. 3 to go.
Race control already on the issue, saying that they'll investigate the start issue.
There's contact!
There's contact. Grimberg holds on, but the rear end of his car is gone. Mangan to the race lead, and it's heartbreak for Gustav Grimberg. Take a look at his face here. You can see the disappointment for the 111. Social media was calling this a Royal Rumble, and I tell you what, 28 cars have been whittled down to just 10 that will finish on the leading lap. But coming through the final corner, the Irishman, Oscar Mangan, he's debuted in the IR18. It was a difficult start at Watkins Glen. He has gotten his championship hopes back on track. He wins and is crowned the king of the streets of Long Beach. These are your unofficial race results. Who knows what race control will have to say, not just about the contact between Grimberg and Mangan. Brian Carey, what a drive through the field, not just for him, but for Pierre Verne, 16 and 19 places respectively. The Powerslide Motorsports team and Race Clutch will be thrilled with podium finishes for them. We go green flag racing for round 4 of this ISOWC season.
Defended by Adam Blocker. He's got to do it around the outside.
Vaz lights up. He spun into pit road. Side by side, the teammates go. Gustav Grimberg gets the place done.
It's this huge stuff between the teammates.
Grimberg holds on, but the rear end of his car is gone. Mangan to the race lead. With 2 rounds to go in the 2021 season of the ISOWC, the championship fight has come to 2 drivers. Oscar Mangan took victory on the streets of Long Beach last time around as the championship favorite Valtteri Alander found more trouble. Heading in then to one of the greatest tracks across the globe, Road America. The championship could be decided here, but our championship protagonists have locked out the front row. It's anyone's game in round 5 of the 2021 season in the ISOWC. Hello and welcome back to RaceSpotTV for continued coverage in the summer of IndyCar and on the road to $7,000. My name is Arjuna Kankipati, delighted to be joined first by Lewis McLeod and Lorenzo Bonder in the RaceSpotTV commentary booth. Hugo Luis, former iRacing world champion dating back to the Open Wheels days, is down in the production booth. We have TV cameras brought to us by Istvan Ballo and TrackCams22.com. Some additional car cameras designed by RaceSpot's own Tyler Maxson. Lewis, what a fun summer it's been so far, but this really is one of the most important races of the season. Valtteri Alander has had trouble in each of the last 2 rounds, and really, with the Irishman Oscar Mangan coming on strong, it's all on Alander to try and rebound from the last 2 disappointing races.
Yeah, that's the big thing. It is crunch time in the championship, and that's the most important thing, is the recovery from Valtteri Alander, which sounds silly, it sounds ridiculous, but the last 2 rounds have really gone a cropper. Now, I mean, we talked to the debut on the oval, looked fantastic until the final moments, looked fantastic on the streets of Long Beach until the second half of the race, and it all fell apart, and it's all about starting a race and finishing a race. He'll want a repeat of Sebring.
And I mean, Sebring was a super clean race. No cautions at all whatsoever, somewhat in contrast to what we've seen in Watkins Glen and on the streets of Long Beach the last time around. Here's a look at our series schedule. June was an exceptionally busy month with 3 races, and we are just as busy here in the month of July. We'll have our penultimate round here today. In 7 days' time, we will kick off the ISOWC 500 qualifying weekend, where it's a full weekend of action with over 14 hours of on-track qualifying attempts, just like they do in the real-world IndyCar. 4-lap averages and a select number of runs for these drivers to head out onto track, with the added complication of making sure you don't crash your car. And of course, it's all building up to our season finale, July the 31st. What a way to crown off the month of July with another 500-mile race from the Brickyard. And Lorenzo, you've been watching on from the sidelines. Great to have you in the commentary booth here today. What a great track we're at today. Road America, one of the best, not just in America and on the NTT IndyCar schedule, but across of global motorsports.
Yeah, one of the best tracks to actually have a good racing over here, and I can't wait to see how the first laps will settle in, because we covered this on the Open Series last season. It was a very frantic first few laps, so I can't wait for what they will do in this track, especially with the tire strategy, which will be key here in this race.
Even more key than I think those who have tuned in on a Monday night will be familiar with, because from what I'm hearing, with some pretty scorching track temperatures, it really is the black mark tire that you will want to be on come the end of the, over the course, I should say, of a 13 or 14 lap fuel window. Let's talk briefly about the point structure so we can talk a little bit about your championship standings. It's 50 points for a race winner, all the way down to just 5 points for 25th on back, and with 32 cars in the field, bumping in effect. A number of cars do not get any championship points, but from 25th through 32nd, 5 points to each of those drivers. Bonus points, almost 6 for each across of a race weekend. Pole position, fastest lap, and most laps led. And Valtteri Alander, even though he went through some tricky situations on the streets of Long Beach, took each of those bonus points and really did cement his place at the top of the standings. And let's talk about these standings, Lewis, right now, because wow, how much fun has it been over the course of this season? It was Alander really the star of the show in the opening 2 rounds, but since then, it's been Oscar Mangan that has been bringing things back into a really fun fight.
Let's be honest, though, that through no race of the season so far has Valtteri Alander exactly walked away with it and been totally unchallenged. And you could look at the standings here, a good way ahead of Oscar Mangan. Round 1 of the season, Zach Campbell, pole position, was running away and then had issues. It was a bit chaotic and carnage in there. Just kept control of the tyres, came through at the end and then took control of the race. Sebring was in control over the entire race. That's what it looks like. That's what the form book would show you. But I was watching the race. We saw that was under pressure from Janssen for the last parts of the race, but then of course went to oval racing where we saw some fast and frantic stuff, then the streets of Long Beach where it looked a little bit more in control for the Finn, and then things kind of fell apart towards the last point of the race, and look who came out on top, Oscar Mangan, to close that gap down. I don't know about you. I think that Valtteri Alander in this is going to be a very, very hard driver to beat, just with the consistency and the way that they run with the primary tyres at Cova just really, really works out for them. But if there's anyone that can make it stick, Oscar Mangan and ISOWC Sim Racing will give it their best go.
And I mean, they're in a technical affiliation with Team Talent, so those two have been working together in the build-up to this, but they're not friends out on track. It's all about the championship. Let's look at what they're fighting for on the road to $7,000. One of the biggest prize pool in American open wheel competition here on the iRacing service. $1,500 to your championship winner. And then you can see there are prizes, I should say, being paid for everyone in the top 30. So there is something to fight for up and down through the field. $250 to the winner of our ISOWC 500 in a couple of weeks' time. But per race prizes, it adds up to over $350 per race. A total of about $1,800 across the first 5 races in the championship. But let's be honest, Lorenzo, what everyone is really eyeing up as well. And we kind of made a joke that maybe George Simmons should prepare the decals for Valtteri Alander's car. A custom 1/18th die cast of their Dallara IR18. And the great thing about having this in 2021 is the team over at Greenlight, who do all of the IndyCar diecasts, have recently released a road course configuration, so our championship winner will get to choose oval or road.
Yeah, it becomes a little bit easier, but you still the words right out of my mouth. I think the most interesting prize is not the money, it's actually the diecast. But it's gonna be interesting to see how the work that George Simmons will be able to put up with the liveries that we have over here on the track. But still not undecided. There's still a few openings, and I think Road America will provide those openings because of some hard racing we're gonna get over here. And for 50 laps, I can't wait to see how Valtteri Alander is going to negotiate that.
Well, let's talk a little bit about Road America in a somewhat detail, and let's go and take a look at a lap here. And before we get to the lap with Wisconsin native Phil Krause, who from Appleton, Wisconsin, it's only about a 40-50 mile drive an hour over here in the U.S. It is such a fun track, Lewis, and ups and downs, so many different elevation changes, but ultimately the corners themselves are pretty simple. 90-degree corners for the most part. The most treacherous one, if you ask me, that carousel, turn 9 and 10.
You got to look at it on a track map and you almost think, it's boring, isn't it? It's not really interesting. It's just, like I say, 90-degree corners. In the race, this track is so much fun. You've got long straights. You're pushing hard through all of this. And like you say, the bumps and stuff, they're keeping you on your toes. You've got so many corners around here that apply a large challenge, not just because of the bumps, but also because of the curbs themselves. And like you say, you've got the likes of the carousel. You've got Canada Corner, which is surprisingly difficult because as much as you've got a lot of curbing on the exit, once you start running up the hill, it's so easy to clip a bit too much to the grass and then go for a spin.
And Lorenzo, I mean, what are your thoughts on this track? We obviously had the return to Road America in 2021, the NTT IndyCar Series back at the end of June. It is such an interesting configuration and really one that promotes passing basically at almost every single corner.
Yeah, it does, especially at turn number 5 in the main straight, right? Where you basically can use your push to pass and use it in kind of the corner as well. I forgot about that. I don't know why I forgot about it. But it's kind of wide that you could go basically too wide the entire lap, have no issues at all, and it does provide you that kind of racing, which for us will be outstanding, you know, but I think for the drivers it might be a little bit unnerving for them.
So here we go. Let's jump on board with the number 19 car for second place in our season opener. Wasn't as easy as it sounds because he had to fight his way through up the hill and underneath the NTT bridge to get yourself started for a lap around this wonderful facility. Turn number 1, you want to brake as deep as you can, but avoid running too wide. Just before that single cone on the left-hand side, use the curb on the inside and all of the runoff to come down in towards what is called turn number 2, but it's really not a turn. Braking at one of the markers on the track, that's what I found is the best point to really reference yourself in the braking, but it's such an important exit out of turn number 3 underneath the cheese bridge and in toward that heavy braking zone down the hill of turn number 5. This is really where you'll see side-by-side action, and just after the 2, Krause onto the brakes, using that curb on the inside because you want to make sure you don't run too wide and onto the grass because that will lose you a bunch of time as you come underneath the Corvette bridge. This is not so tricky, but sometimes the car just steps out from underneath you as you get the power down. A flat-out kink is turn number 7 as you hurry down the hurry downs in towards turn number 8. Another left-hand 90-degree corner. Look how much of the curb on the inside Krause is trying to use to set himself up for this carousel. You'll see some different lines being taken here. Krause is being a bit tighter and hugging the inside to roll himself onto the power and head down in towards what is a flat-out corner that can be very, very scary. You trust the downforces with you. See, Krause almost kicks up a little bit of a grass as he comes in towards the kettle bottoms and down into Canada Corner. A couple of history points that we'll get to about why it's called Canada Corner, but this is where you'll see cars running all the way to the left-hand side and sometimes forced into that runoff area. Now in through the penultimate corner, this is where sometimes the car will just snap out from underneath you if your tires have been worn out a little bit too much. Final corner, get the power down because this is a climb up the hill. This is where push to pass will be used to get yourself some momentum and to get yourself across the line. It is a very, very quick lap, Lewis, but it is such a fun ride in a Dallara IR18.
You bring up the point there of push to passes, and this would be one of the most important circuits to strategize your usage of push to pass, more so than any of the other ones. I mean, Long Beach, you save them later on and you fire them off and hope they work. Around here, you definitely need to save them, in my opinion. You want them for the second half of the race, because that's where you're going to go on the attack, and if you've got all of them saved up, great. If you've used all of them in the early stages, you're going to be a sitting duck.
Well, it's time for the most famous song in all of esports. Let's turn up Silver Scrapes and go trackside here from Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, to take a look at our starting grid in the penultimate round of this 2021 ISOWC season. 50 laps on the agenda here. It is a long old race for drivers to make their way through, but it is the championship leader that will start from pole alongside his championship protagonist, Oscar Mangan, for Core Sim Racing. Joshua Chin and Alexander Walton, they make up row number 2. The King of Chin's always a strong fuel saver. Walton has been a hard charger but has nailed qualifying this time around. Pedro Sanchez Albert, 3rd place in the championship. He looks to try and fight for 2nd in today's action. He'll be inside of Christian Steele, who'll be leading the charge for Team i5G with the Apex Racing team. A much better qualifying performance for the Simsa Esports team. Ramez Azam inside of Carly Jansen, with Brian Carey and Christopher Demerit, IndyCar staples, on the edge of the top 10. Adam Crane and Graham Saunders, they share row number 6, with Balislav Remenik and Phil Kraus 13th and 14th respectively. Henry Bennett looking suave in the 007. He'll be inside of Syandra, 15th and 16th positions. Yalbas has been very strong in this IRA team, but qualifying has been a struggle for him. He'll be in 17th, with Isaac Morris making his debut here in 18th position. Riley Thompson 19th, Austin Espety 20th, with Severi Seppa and Andreas Ike, 2 Scandinavian drivers in row number 11. Manuel Domingo and Hugo Olsen, they share row number 12, with Alexander Van der Sant, who is now joined up with the 3 Crown Racing and Indy Alliance program inside of Peter Zuba on row number 13. The hyperstar Brendan Lichtenberg, he lines up in 27th alongside the Frenchman Pierre Verne. A very impressive podium for Verne last time on the streets of Long Beach, with Vilde Wallen and Bent Nemthi, row number 15. Andrew Kinsella and Andrew Marquez, they make up the final row of this grid. Marquez, another driver to be making his debut here today. 32 cars Lorenzo, 50 laps, with a fuel window between 13 to 15 laps. It's going to be an interesting one, especially when it comes to the tires.
Especially when it comes to the tires, Arjuna, I agree 100%. It's a track that the fronts will be dead by whenever you get to lap 8 or 9, so you have to know how to consume them properly, especially with the braking. But the fuel gauge, you can actually do some undercut strats over here, which might be interesting for this race.
And talking to some of these drivers, Lewis, the what do you call it? The crossover point, the conversion window between the 2 tires is about halfway through the stint, and it's only about 3/4 of a second to a full second in terms of the ultimate pace difference at the start of the race. But when it comes to that crossover point, it starts to feel pretty rough, if we're being honest. You do not want to be on those red marked tires come lap 13 and 14.
No, absolutely not. But if there's one driver who's been in control of tyres this season, it is Valtteri Landa. I'd say on the at least this first lap, this run down towards turn 1, we know what to look out for. That carnage in the mid-pack. Whilst this is a track that you can overtake at, if you've had a poor qualifying, take Yalvaz, for example, right down the order, No has the ability to climb up an order, to get involved with a mix a bit later on, to fight for a top 5, a top 10, whatever it is. The thing is, you have to survive the chaos and carnage of the first lap, which is much easier said than done. That run up towards turn 1, you've got concrete barrier on the right hand side, you've got grass and then concrete on the left. It is hard. It's just about wide enough for 3 cars, maybe 4 if you're pushing it, but if you're going that far wide, you're probably going to end up in one of those barriers.
So let's do our predictions as we do like to do. We get a long pace lap here. 2 wide, we will start today's action. Let's start with you, Lorenzo. We'll give Lewis and myself some time to think about this. But from pole, your championship leader does have a rather stiff fight, I would think, with Oscar Mangan, the Irishman, to his outside. How do you think this race is going to go here today?
I'm interested to see how Valtteri is going to be aggressive in terms of offensive against Mangan, Chin, and Walton on the first lap. But if I have to pick one guy that caught up my attention was Phil Kraus. He won on the Monday night when we actually covered this last season. He is a guy to look for. He has a really good race pace early on, so he might be able to move a few spots. So I'll put my eye on him for now.
and he'll be starting on the black mark tire. The top 10 do have to start on the tire they qualified with, so that means red marks for every single one of the top 10. Adam Crane in 11th is the first car on the black. Graham Saunders in 12th will be on the red. What about you, Lewis? Because I think strategy is going to be even more intriguing than we've had in the past couple of races. Of course, Alander kind of missed the strategy last time with so many cautions. Could be interesting how things go here today.
I get the Phil Kraus thing. He's very, very fast. I'm sure he's going to climb his way up the order, maybe even onto the podium. We'll have to wait and see. But I'm not betting that way for a race win. I can't look past Valtteri Alander. I think this is the rebound round for the championship leader, for the driver that won the opening 2 races of the season, for the driver who's potentially, you could argue, disappointed the last 2 races. I think this is the turnaround point just in time for Indianapolis.
Lots of action here today on RaceSpotTV. Lewis and myself got to cover the 3rd race weekend in the 2021 VRS SCO Sprint Masters as that championship fight continues to reign on. And, well, a driver is doing double duty here. We saw Carly Jansen take the first stint of race number 2, made his way into this ISOWC session, qualified up there in the top 10. We were talking about physical capabilities, Lewis, in that race at Zolder, and I think that's really going to be what Carl has to rely on here, because so much action in this Indy car. It's got no power steering in the real world. It really can kick you around.
Yeah, you've also got to accept that this is driving a Ferrari GT3 car around Zolder versus driving an Indy car around Road America. 2 wildly different things, and to get used to it once again is going to be hard work, and it's more so on the reactions that the issue is going to be. You're catching a slide out of a corner. That's where there's going to be problems. Still, though, feeling pretty confident on pace, and also nearly battled for a victory at Sebring.
It was that battle between Jansen and Alander that really put us towards Alander as being that championship favorite, but the pace car is down onto pit lane. Field is in control of your championship leader. We climb the hill and we go green flag racing in the penultimate round of this championship. Mangan is going to get swarmed on the start as Joshua Chin down his inside already. Alexander Walton trying to follow suit. They're 3 wide just behind him. Ramez Azam trying to go down the inside, the middle, excuse me. Christian Steele, there's contact between them, and there's chaos in towards turn number 1. This is not what you wanted to see. We may get through this one without a caution, though, because they're off to the side of the track, Lewis.
I get the feeling there will potentially be a caution from that quite early. Just a little bit too dicey at turn 1. Certainly is out, and they'll all be slowing down. That's what we're talking about. That's what we were saying. They're just going to push it too hard at turn 1, and you'd kind of think that it was a 5-lap race, not 50, but they're desperate to try and work their way up, but it is what it is. It's happened. They've pushed too hard too soon.
And I have to try and figure out who was the car that started the contact. I think it was Ramez Azam and Christian Steele that came together first. Brian Carey also forced off the track along with Adam Crane and Peter Zuba. All sorts of carnage. And the first caution flag flies then on lap number 1 here, Lorenzo.
Yeah, it's a tricky one. When I saw Ramez going to the inside, to the middle of turn number 1, I kind of said myself over here that caution was going to happen because it was inevitable. They were side to side, nearly wheel to wheel, so a form of contact would happen, and Steele got the short end of the stick, unfortunately, and then all the chaos ensued right behind them. Unfortunate, but you know, it's one of those tracks that the turn 1 kind of provides you that aggressiveness going into it. So the thing is, they have to adjust on the fly, right?
And this means that strategies will have to come to head as well, because for drivers on the red mark tire, might be an opportunity to come down and get them switched over to those black mark primaries. Benny, the pace car driver, will have to collect the field. Here we go. There's that replay. You can kind of just see as Christopher Demerit also stacks up with Brian Carey and Adam Crane. I think more just trying to avoid some of that carnage in front of him. Steele is down on pit road immediately along with Brian Carey. It will be a long race for them to try and recover anything from this one. And well, now at the front, your championship leader has a couple of cars in between him and his main rival here.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's take another look at that. And innocent party, I mean, 3 wide into turn 1, never going to work. Christian Steele sent straight off. And remember, there was tears for him after battling for the race win back at Fontana earlier in the season, and having that end in such a dramatic way. Well, that was courtesy of Valtteri Alander on that day. This one, ended at turn 1. To be honest, if you're going to be involved in an incident, I'd rather it be done at the start of the race rather than later on, because you've done your hard work, you've got there, and then it's robbed from you at the last moment, like it was doing the oval racing a bit earlier on. This is a bit more, I mean, don't get me wrong, I am not saying that this doesn't suck, because it really does, but it is what it is. Take a deep breath, move on to Indianapolis.
Exactly. The Brickyard and our pilgrimage to Speedway, Indiana will be the final redemption then for a number of these drivers as they try and get themselves formed up behind the pace car. I think relatively long pacing laps here because, of course, this is such a long facility. I mean, upwards of 4 miles, 6.5 kilometers. So we are definitely looking at some lengthy caution periods if we have a couple of these ones. But we did see some aggressiveness on the start, and, well, that will be something that is taken a look at post-race, and Race Control will have their verdict down on that one. It does mean you can see the left-hand side of your screen, some big movers and shakers, and someone who now I think we need to watch out for, Lorenzo, is the King of Chins, because he's a prodigious fuel saver, always known for saving the fuel very, very effectively, but now he is in a position to try and really secure some good points for that championship.
Yeah, he does. We know that from his Team Chimera days that he knows how to save fuel. He's P5 in the championship so far. He's 4 points away from Andreas Ike. So this is his prime opportunity to, maximize the fuel gauge, go to mode 8, take off the foot out of the throttle a little bit, and then whenever the race starts, if I'm him, I would be right behind Valtteri Alander. Don't be overly aggressive, and just work the strategy. Try to go for those 15 laps and be within pace of the rest of the field, and try to go for that podium spot at the end of the race.
Here's one more look. Was that contact between the 777 that kind of forces Azam up into steel? Hard to really tell from that vantage point. I think Carly Jansen was quite lucky to get through that mess. Graham Saunders up a couple of positions, 4 on the start. And, well, all sorts of carnage, and a number of drivers, I think, very disappointed with the start of that race. Lights are off on the pace car, so if you didn't come down pit road this time around, you will not be coming in on the first part of this race. And so that does mean that 20 cars have stayed out there. Riley Thompson leads the field down into pit road, along with Adam Crane, Hugo Olsen, Christopher Demert, Pierre Verne, Peter Zuber, Brendan Lichtenberg, Bence Nemthi, Vilda Wallen, and Andrew Marquez. Christian Steele and Brian Carey still getting repairs, so they are 2 laps down and might be done for in today's race. And, well, Lorenzo, what do you think about that lap 1 incident?
And looking from my perspective over here, what happened is when Aramis actually went into turn number 1, he got so pinched in, there was no room whatsoever for him to navigate. He tried to back out, but because he got so pinched in, he tried to look one way. I think it was right on Pedro's left-hand side pod. Just didn't have any room to back out, and just as he saw it, there was no room. Steele was on his left-hand side and does the contact happen. So it's those split-second decisions that make the difference in this race. But of course, the aggressiveness unfortunately didn't pay off, and this Steele is in the pit lane.
So we work our way down the hurry downs, not really hurrying at this point in time. I'll ask you, Lewis, if you are a driver, I mean, we saw Orlando getting kind of caught out by the cautions last time around. How difficult is it to make those split-second decisions on strategy? Because, like I said, top 20 didn't come down onto pit road. That means Andrew Kinsella is up 11 positions. A number of other cars, I think, coming in just to top off on fuel.
Around here, you'll be sticking more to your base strategy because it's an easier track to overtake. You kind of want to pit roughly at the same time as everyone else. A caution this early, and the bigger gamble is to pit rather than to stay out. So I reckon for these points, they'll be running it out to the fuel mileage, to the end of the fuel window, which this will help them extend it also towards about 15 laps. Realistically, they'll just be cruising right now, 14, 15 laps. Staying out is the right call right now. At Long Beach, it was very, very difficult. It was crazy, in fact. Whereas around here, with the tyre wear that we see, with this kind of stuff, I think there's less pressure on getting the strategy absolutely perfect when the caution comes up, because you can actually race this track very, very well. One thing I will say is that, we always speak of cautions breed cautions. Around here, I think less so, in the sense that we've had our 2-wide dual file start. We now go single file for the remaining cautions of the race, and that should alleviate some of the issues into turn 1.
Very good point. Yeah, single file restarts for the remainder of this action, and for Oscar Mangan, he's going to have to take advantage here to try and get past first Walton and then Chin to try and fight with Alander. He did say that in the process of moving, so hasn't been able to do too much practice. And of course, Lewis got to see him in action yesterday in the SEO Sprint Challenge in the GT4s as they headed to Circuit Zolder. But here we go. The pace car will be down, back onto pit road, and once more the field in control of Valtteri Alander up the hill. It is a long run down in towards turn number 1, so Alander's going to try and stack them up, and indeed, look at that, they are too wide back in the pack. We'll have to watch and see if there's any penalties to come down there. On board with Graham Saunders, the Geodesic Racing drivers. Look at that, that's Pedro Sanchez Albert looking to the inside, but he's covered off by Ramez Azam. Azam unable to get the move done on Oscar Mangan in front, so safely through turn number 1 this time around. But there's further side-by-side action. Henry Bennett and Austin Espity, two IndyCar veterans, squabbling over 13th position, Lewis.
Yeah, see, that was Pedro Sanchez Albert almost trying to get a jump start, had to lift out of it, had to allow Oscar Mangan to continue on, cost him a position to Ramez Azam. Valtteri Alander was able to clear off from Josh Chin. Here comes Pedro Sanchez Albert to try and attack once again. Now's trying to hold off the charge of Janssen, who's going to potentially make up the move, and we've got more carnage down the back of the field.
This one is Alexander Van der Sant making his ISOWC debut, and I think we will definitely say green flag this time around because he's able to get that car back onto track, but with some substantial rear wing damage. You can see the 777 of Albert is now in 7th position. He's dropped 2 places from his starting position, and now will have to defend from Graham Saunders right behind him. Out front, though, it's almost a full second between Alander and Chin. Almost a second between Chin and Mangan, so Chin is not being able to break away from the other grouping of cars. Here's that replay, and it's Hugo Olsen just deep under the brakes and running into the back, a little bit clumsy, and well, that will likely be some sort of post-race penalty. As look at this through Canada corner, Ramez Azam trying to fend off the challenge from Carly Janssen.
Yeah, up the hill, this is tight stuff. Oh, Janssen's off!
And there was another car that was going off, or was that just Carl Janssen? My word, that was a big crash, and not sure exactly what happened there, Lewis.
Yeah, I don't know. There was a bit of space between them, and yeah, they went off. Let's take another look. Janssen. Oh, he got on the grass on turn-in. Got on the grass on turn-in. It looks, at least that's how it looked from that angle, which is an easy mistake to make after such a good charge up the order, and Janssen being one of those drivers that we'd keep an eye on, especially after how good he was at Sebring. That's huge drama. It's a difficult corner, that rise up the hill. It's so difficult.
I think we don't like to use that word, but it might have been a little bit of netcode as well. You could just see that Janssen's car kind of pitched around on him, didn't really have the car under full control. Fastest lap provisionally goes to Valtteri Alander, a 1:43.158, but the time should be tumbling as we work lap number 5 underneath the Corvette bridge here. And Lorenzo, well, what a chaotic restart we've had, but now out front, 1.4 seconds the advantage.
Yeah, 1.4 seconds the advantage. It just keeps growing and growing what the Valtteri Alander is doing. So it's an interesting race. I said I think I would look forward to see how Valtteri is going to negotiate that, the defenses. But I think he has no problem whatsoever for now.
Alexander Van der Sant has come down onto pit road, 24 seconds to replace his rear wing. Still waiting to see if Carl Janssen will be in a similar position, but Van der Sant will be hoping for a caution as we jump on board with the 777. Pedro Sanchez Albert chasing down the Canadian in front of him. Ramez Azam still in the top 5, but will have some work to do. First to defend from behind, but also close that gap up in front. It's almost 1.4 seconds now between 4th and 5th positions as we come through the final corner. Lap number 5 in the books. Alander, Chin, Walton, Mangan, and Azam. The top 5 here today, Lewis.
Really important to note that Ramez Azam being the first driver realistically to go onto the button on the rise up the hill. You've got Riley Thompson down in 21st, or sorry, about 16th position, 17th position, going on the attack after the pit stop. We've got a few drivers further down the order that have been into the pit lane just to fill up on fuel, maybe change tyres, get onto a little bit of cleaner stuff, just to get them way through the race, go onto a preferred tyre around here in the extreme heat. Syandra on the button as well on the rear end of Phil Krause.
I think maybe also using this as push to defend rather than push to pass. You can see Isaac Morris is right behind him, down in towards turn number 5. Morris on the red tires versus Andra on those black primary tires. Of course, you have to do one complete lap in both of these tire compounds, and it does mean that you want to make sure you're on the right tire at the right time as we jump on board with the 63 through the flat-out kink. Already Lorenzo Alander with another fastest lap. That gap out front is 2 full seconds.
2 full seconds, 42.629 for Valtteri. So he's feeling comfortable and not using any push to passes overall. I think he's saving that for the end. But what a pace so far being set by Valtteri. Of course, the 2 fastest laps that you're gonna get are actually from the 2 first laps you're gonna get with the red rubber. After that, it has about a second drop off, so 1.2 drop off, but still really good pace so far from Alander.
Boris, can he go down the inside? Oh, full of confidence under the brakes. Has he overdone it? Over, under, available for Andra. They are still side by side, but I think Andra will have to concede and now look behind because Remeniek will be the next target. Or rather, Remeniek will make Andra his next target, but then, of course, you do have those black mark tires. I'm seeing Yao Vaz slipping down the timing screen. I think he's been off at the penultimate corner. All sorts of chaos and carnage. Another fastest lap, a 1:42.625 from Alander. He is a full second quicker than Joshua Chin right now in second place.
Yeah, truly incredible. Look at this from Morris, though, defending to the inside of turn 1, then maybe pushing it a little bit too far over. This is just allowing Balázs Remeniek as well a part of this for Yaz Heat, whilst Yao Vaz dropped down the order for the team, trying to do good things for them for Yaz Heat. Balázs Remeniek now on the attack. Walton, though, has gone up in the second.
It was down the inside at turn number 5. I wonder if Chin has put his car into fuel-saving mode to try and get it to the end on maybe some shorter stops as around the outside. Espety is fighting hard with Remeniek up the hill underneath the Corvette bridge. You do not want to be on the outside there, and Espety does have to concede the position. For the Yas Heat driver, that is looking good, but of course that gap has opened up to the car in front. And Lorenzo, Alander, the only car in the 42s that last time around.
It boggles my mind that with the tire as it is, he managed to still do a 42 this early on in the race. I expected him to start going to the 43s, 43 lows and mids to keep it over there, but still in the 42s is downrightly insane. Give me no room whatsoever for anybody to catch up.
And well, the track temperature is 40 degrees Celsius. It might fall because we're just about to hit 4 p.m. from the virtual Elkhart Lake. As look at this. This is really intense stuff as Yao Vaz right behind him has Adam Crane and Severi Seppa side by side. Black mark tire versus the red mark tires. There's all sorts of strategies going on right now. And really, this is the fun thing about having mandatory tire restrictions. You have to use these tires for 1 lap each, and it does also mean when the temperature and the conditions are like this, Lewis, there's a bit more opportunity for the black mark tires that, at least when it comes to official racing and the stuff we cover on a Monday night in the IndyCar Open Series, the black mark tire really not used at all. Here, you're not only forced to use it, they may be a very definite advantage to having it over 15 laps.
I'll tell you one person who'll know it's an advantage and know it's an advantage for their style of driving. That'll be Valtteri Alander. Very much works well with the black wall tyres. Phil Krause, you were saying it earlier, started on the harder tyres after being outside of the top 10 in qualifying. I think it was about 12th place he had to start, and now works his way up to 8th place on those tyres. Potentially will get better as well as the race goes on, as the alternates just burn up a little bit more, as we're riding on board with Oscar Mankin on the back of Josh Chin. This battle for 2nd place, all of them on those Red Bull tyres. Got to give a shout out to Riley Thompson, inside the top 15 now, after making that pit stop, has made a decent amount of progress up the order.
And now on the back of Henry Bennett, so those red tires working a treat for Thompson, but you would have to think at some point he'll need to come down and get back onto the primary for the long runs. Green flag runs do tend to work out nicely. I mean, other than what we saw on lap number 1 here, Sebring was exceptionally clean, and I think Thompson might even have the measure of the 007 heading down into Canada corner. Might be a little bit too much to send it deep this time around, and indeed Bennett will hold on to that 14th position. Someone I'm seeing who is a bit struggling at this point in time is Andreas Ike, who did use that pit stop cycle to move his way up through the field. Meanwhile, battle for 3rd position. Oscar Mangan gets on the button, down across the start-finish line. The Irishman back up into the podium positions as he tries to hunt down the cars in front. There is a car off the track, Christopher Demerit. There's a lot of damage to the 144.
That's not good. That is not good. I mean, we're 10 laps into the race. The expectation would be that some drivers are going to start getting racy now, and that's exactly what we've seen as Sanders and Pedro Sanchez Albert have switched positions, and whether that will hold that way down towards turn 3. We'll have to wait and see, because quite close is Pedro Sanchez Albert, but not close enough to move up. Was really aggressive on the opening couple of laps, but clearly the pace just dropping out of his car.
No shade there, Lewis, at all. No,
absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Well, we've just come from Zolder, where turn 7 is about 4 different corners, to a place like this where a slight kink in the road counts as a corner. So I agree with you. Technically, turn 5 should be turn 3. And no, NASCAR, you are wrong on that one. Andrew Kinsella getting on past Yao Vaz for 14th position. All sorts of up and down movement through this wonderful field. And I mean, this is incredible racing. And I just took a look at what happened to Christopher Demerit. A slight mistake by himself in through Canada corner, and sent that car straight into the tire barrier, and Demerit is down on towards pit road. Inset in your screen is that battle between Kinsella and Yao Vaz. Big picture, you can see Saunders and Albert. This is for 6th and 7th positions, Lorenzo.
Yeah, 5th and 6th positions, and really good performance so far from Graham Sanders. We saw him in the Monday nights basically staying quiet for some of the other races in the ovals, but in the roadside he basically just excels. Nearly got the win at the Nürburgring Nordschleife race, and that was a close one, but performing really well so far here at Road America. I know it is a track that he kind of favors it in. He knows how to drive this track, so I'm not fully surprised to see the geodesic. No, I kind of jinxed it.
Oh, that's a big one through turn 1, and well, you saw Kinsella was also wide in through turn 11, Canada corner. Saunders now dropping out of the top 10. Significant damage to the Alpine Stars geodesic racing machine. It might also be day done for that 100. He's going to have to try and nurse that car back to pit lane. Take a look at the onboard. Just a bit too much speed over the curb, then runs wide into the grass, pitches him into the tire barrier, and nothing he could do, Lorenzo.
Nothing he can do about it. It's so easy to step out that car and go into the tire barrier. I think I cannot stress enough how many practice runs I actually got and crashed into turn number 1 just doing the same thing that he did. But I cannot compliment someone, man. The commentator's curse is already on this early on in the race.
We're going to have to put you in a wooden room or something, a soundproof room, so you can't do any of that commentator's cursing. Meanwhile, I did see that Syandra got past Balislag, Remenik, and there you can see those 2 cars up on your screen. This is just outside the top 10. It's been a bit of an interesting season for the VRS Satellite Racing team. They've had some strong pace, but not always the results to back it up, as Remenik gets on the button and Mangan gets passed by Joshua Chin. So for 3rd position, those are some valuable points going the way of Joshua Chin and being stolen from Oscar Mangan. At this point in time, Lewis, the gap between Alander and Walton is up to 5 full seconds as Chin gets on the button to try and defend from the Irishman behind. I would start to speculate that Mangan's main concern is going to be the gap to Pedro Santos Albert rather than to your championship leader.
Yeah, potentially so. He's got Ramez Azam and then Santos Albert, who's closing in once again. Will say for Balázs Remenik, he's in a bit of trouble at the moment because with Syandra directly ahead, connection issues for Andra and having the blinking and whatnot, just really struggling to stay in the race, to be perfectly honest. And we've seen that from Valtteri Alander as well, don't forget. Just a little bit tricky to deal with for the Hungarians. Should be able to sort of just hold firm as long as you don't go for anything. It's not too much risk. But here goes Syandra to get by Isaac Morris on the button. Well, that's about as easy as you could get it on the 11th lap of the race.
I think Sorry, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to say also the other thing is that I feel really bad for Phil Kraus, because if that's how much Lorenzo's going to curse someone, the fact that he was a pick for a race, oh God.
Yeah, you don't want to see that, as I think we're starting to see that crossover point right now, and Morris on those red mark tires is really starting to struggle in relation to the cars around him. Great to get the onboard look with Morris making his debut in ISOWC competition today. Officially 20% through this race, by the way, as we work lap number 11. That gap out front is just absolutely mind-blowing, and for someone who has never really raced in the IndyCar leading into this series, 2 previous open-wheel oval races before we went to Auto Club, Lorenzo. What can you say about Alander other than, my word, he is a strong competitor? As look at this, Morris is going to get past now outside, but just on the edge of the top 10.
Yeah, and Morris actually will get a good run over here, but side-by-side is quite dangerous, and Remenik actually did the better job of backing out. And I've seen drivers in the pit lane here. Arjuna, it's going to be interesting. Joshua Chin is drawing the first shot over here.
I think that was Isaac Morris, who was also down on pit road. So I think, like I said, we are in that transition point where Chin was just nursing those red mark tires, wants to get off of them and back onto that primary tire. and try and make a rather long run at this point in time. Henry Bennett is being pressured by Yao Vaz, who is on the button down the inside into turn 1, but the British Racing Green machine uses a bit of that grass and gravel, able to hold on, just roll his momentum. I would wonder now, heading into turn 5, Lewis, can the S-Heat driver get this done?
Well, the answer to that is yes. After that mistake from Bennett, that was not great. And then onto the button anyway for Yao Vaz, just to confirm the move. Easily done off of turn 3 on that run down through the kinks to turn 4. Ike as well with Kinsella switching of positions, so they're still side by side in the run in the braking zone of 4, downhill into that section. Heavy stuff. Surprised to see Josh Chin in early. Of course, if you divide the race by 4, you're talking 12 and a half, which is about what we're expecting. A 3-stop race here. Just a little bit surprised to see him in on the end of the 11th lap. Obviously, you're talking about the transition point of the tyres and wanting to get off of the Red Bull tyres, but still a surprising move.
Yeah, and I mean, I was postulating that maybe some fuel saving going on for the King of Chins, but he's fed himself back out into some clean air. That's going to be important. Now on the black mark tyre, what can he do to just build up the speed and build up his confidence as we head to the middle portion of this race? We're watching the battle for 15 on back, and of course points paid to every single one of these drivers, but it's all about just maximizing the points you gain, as here comes Simsa Esports and Ramez Azam down onto the pit road. The 65 car coming in rather early. I think potentially responding to Chin here, Lorenzo.
Yeah, don't want to avoid the overcut. I'm seeing Chin in the Canada corner, and usually there's a car spun around. Riley Thompson, unfortunate to see spun around in the last corner. It's a corner that is also tricky. If you just step out of the way in the curbing way too much, it can get complicated for you to go on the reacceleration.
I think what's happened to Thompson is he actually bottomed out on that curb on the outside, and that's what sent him around, unfortunately. So here we go, take a look at this replay, and you can see it's not necessarily the grass, I think, but more that bottom of the car smacking into the ground and instantly went around. Does he nose it into the tire wall? Oh, yes, he does. Let's see how much damage potentially to the front of the 56 car. He was on a charge after coming down in that first cycle. Back to the live pictures and down into turn 5. Is that Peter Zuba trying for a move? He thought about it and then has to tuck back into line. But we've been commentating on some teammates coming together in that SEO Sprint Masters Championship, Lewis. Rule number 1 of racing, do not hit your teammate.
Yeah, I think we've had something like 6 or 7 teammate collisions in a total of 12 races between the Challenge and Masters. It's been crazy to see this kind of stuff. Obviously, if you're battling it out with the teammates, you're sometimes almost too cautious, and that can cause issues in itself because you never really fully commit to a move. And if you're going to go for a move ever, regardless of teammate or anyone else, the last thing that you want to do is half-heartedly leave it down the inside. You always want to commit properly and actually make the move, and that's where we see some of the stuff. If not, you see people over-committing and then causing issues. Pedro Sanchez-Albert and Oscar Mangan into pit lane as we ride on board with Severi Seppa.
And really, I think we're just seeing those tires giving up, and these drivers want to get off of them at the right time. So Mangan, Albert, and Manuel Domingo are down onto pit lane. The Radicals Online Track Racer number 53 rolling down at what feels like a very, very slow 72 kilometers an hour, and now into his box and up on the jack for fresh Firestone tires, and a full tank of fuel will go into those cars. Now looking at Andrew Kinsella, Andreas Ikes battling now. This will be 10th and 11th positions.
I think with Valtteri Orlando, by the way, so lap times, just wanted to speak of this with the heat that we've got at the moment. Lap times after this many laps of racing is only down about 1 to 1.2 seconds. Last lap time was a 43.9, that fastest lap of the race being a 42.6. Josh Chin, 44.1 on the first lap out of the pit lane, which on the Blackwall tyres is obviously plenty pacey enough. It's just that still, even with that, even with fresh tyres, despite it being the harder compound, Valtteri Orlando is still able to pull out an extra 10th.
That technical affiliation between Team Talent, Core Sim Racing, and Kobe Esports has been a very impressive one, but it's always been the 77 that's been the standout name, and 1.3 seconds of tire drop-off, and to still be faster than cars who have just come out on fresh primary tires is rather incredible, and just speaks to the talent level that Valtteri Orlando has. New spotter for him. He is down on pit road. Iku Merakala has been in his box over the opening couple of rounds of the season, but instead he's got his teammate Matti Sipola calling the shots this time around. Orlando is followed in by Walton and Kraus. I would suspect that Syandra stays out there this time around. In fact, no, he's not. Everyone is down. I think we're at the edge of fuel here, Lorenzo.
Yeah, we're right on the edge of fuel. It's going to be interesting to see if anyone goes actually after the 14th lap, as Adam Crane will actually take the leadership of this race. He's been one of those guys that actually pit earlier on that yellow flag. So it's going to be interesting to see how the performance out of the new tires for everybody will actually go out on the track. But so far, the VRS satellite driver getting that lap extra point for leading a lap in the race.
Crane, I think, is here to... he came down, excuse me, because he had the damage from that incident with Brian Carey, Christopher Demerit, and the number 29. So just trying to extend his window. I see Andrew Kinsella is also still out there on the black mark tires, extending his run. So interesting to see where Valtteri Alander is fed out. He's in 6th and crucially in some clean air, because he'll be able to build up his speed, build up his confidence. And interestingly, Joshua Chin has undercut Lewis, both Walton, Azam, and Mangan. He is now several seconds clear in that battle for net second place.
Yeah, that was the main thing he was focusing on. It wasn't the gap to the Kova car that was leading the race. It was more the gap for the podium. So well undercut, must be said. Got to give a shout out to Andrew Kinsella, by the way, because obviously, you know, we've spoken of Adam Crane, Ben Semety, and Pierre Verne, Zuber, that have all been into the pit lane. Kinsella hasn't. This is just fuel mileage. This is the only driver that has actually yet to enter pit lane today. Just keeping control of the tyres, keeping control of the car, keeping control of the fuel. Will be into the pit lane this time by, but that's some very good fuel mileage.
And I wonder if maybe just that caution period, like Lorenzo said, bump it down to map 8 and go from there. I'm seeing Hugo Olsen is being bundled off the track. This is at the penultimate turn as we jump on board with Alexander Walton. He's just been passed by his teammate Ramez Azam. So the two Simsa esports drivers squabbling as Kinsella is down on pit road. And now we wait and see. It's followed in by Crane. When Nemthi, Verne, and Zuber will elect to do the same. Into the box, some fresh tires going onto the car. And if anything, the track temperature is cooling off very slightly. We are past 4 p.m. in the virtual Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, Lorenzo. Track temperature, 38 degrees Celsius.
At 38 degrees Celsius, and eventually will come down, I think, right about 28, 25, right at the end of this race, I believe. And that kind of tells you that the black tires won't be as effective as the red tires. If we were like 47 to 50 degrees, like we had on the start of the race, maybe the black marks actually would be more effective against the red compound. But it's going to be interesting to see if anybody leaves for that final stint going for on the black marks. If I'm one of these drivers, I would not do that. But then again, there are crazy people, and that's why I'm commentating the R race.
We're looking at a train of race clutch machines. They're running 1, 2, and 3, but yet to come down onto pit road. The gap back to Alander is only about 3 seconds, so Alander is coming, and Alander is coming on strong at this point in time. Pierre Verne did have a very impressive drive up through the field last time around after starting towards the tail end, getting onto the podium, and really on the streets of Long Beach, it was anyone's game. Just had to survive to make it to the end. Seeing side by side between Syandra and Isaac Morris in through the bottom of turn number 5. Morris is going to now get a big wiggle, almost checks up the momentum. Emmanuel Domingo behind. There's all sorts of carnage going on here, and you can see that action coming out of the carousel. They continue to rumble, and look who's trying to pounce now. Balislag, Remenik. There are so many strong drivers in this field, and I tell you what, Lewis, it's really hard to say where things are going to cycle out as the race clutch trio come down onto pit lane. Who knows how the strategy will play out.
Pretty sure race clutch will be like, quick, get the photographer out. We're running 1, 2, and 3. Don't care if it's right now. I'd absolutely take a print screen of that timesheet and get some photographs on the racetrack. Decent exit from Balázs Remenik up towards the line to complete yet another lap, but this could be a decent move. Looking like it's the best drive of the season from Balázs Remenik, and potentially moving forward. Oh, sorry, we were actually on board with Domingo there, but Remenik's right a part of this battle.
Ooh.
Oh! I've gone all Lorenzo Bonder on you.
No, you haven't. Don't worry. It was just a visual illusion, at least for the time being. The iRacing gods have spoken, and Remenik gets his front wing back on the button as he tries to slip on past Domingo. That was a bit of a checkup as Isaac Morris just came across the track and cut off the run of the 53 car. It'll be the outside line for the Yas Heat driver, but you can send it deep under the brakes, which Domingo does. Morris sees it coming. Domingo somehow makes that one work. Wow. What a what a drive that one was to hold on to that car. And Morris, I must say, did a good job there, Lorenzo, to see that move coming and stay well out of the way.
Yeah, that was a really good awareness from Morris to see that send out of Domingo and just let him go by. No major harm done over there. But what that kind of done actually is stack up these three drivers and bring João Vaz now into the fray, because he's not far behind his teammate of Remnix right about a second. He is on the red compound, so they actually can get closer. They keep battling like that and make things a little bit more clunky as they battle now into the Canada corner.
Oh no, and as we take a look at Isaac Morris, look at this wonderful shot as we head down into that braking zone. Reminick is going to slip on past, and Morris is bundled out of the top 10, at least for the time being. For Powerslide Motorsports, things have gone from bad to worse, because I've seen Andrew Kinsella, I think, made a mistake in through Canada corner and into the tire barriers for the Canadian, and he's out of today's action. So, well, Hugo Olsen is still in the race, but I think now back in 24th, not looking great for those guys at this point in time. Reminick gets on the button, trying to pull away. Here comes João Vaz to use that draft, taking a peek to the inside, a little bit too far behind, and he'll have to wait for now, Lorenzo.
Yeah, he's gonna have to wait for now. So it's gonna be interesting how João Vaz is gonna negotiate turn number 4 right now. As he goes into a tighter line, will be basically side by side with Isaac Morris over here, and I don't believe he's gonna go on the button because João only has 3 push to pass left.
Yeah, I mean, there's some interesting usages of the push to pass. In fact, I think Vaz has 5 left on my timing screen. Not exactly sure what the situation is. True. Long way around. Can he make it work? You don't want to be on the outside as you go underneath the Corvette bridge. And Morris should hold. He's going to try and squeeze Vaz, but no, Vaz says, I'm not having any of that. And in through turn 7, it's Vaz who takes the position, now into 11th. Meanwhile, the battle for 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th is really heating up, because Joshua Chin has managed to scamper away very slightly, but you can see on the button is Alexander Walton. He's side by side with his teammate heading down into Canada corner. Phil Kraus has gotten past Oscar Mangan. This is crucial in that championship fight, Lewis.
Yeah, Phil Kraus will want to get by the 2 Simsa cars, as the number 6 of Severi Sepp has been off the road on the run down towards Canada corner. That one being turn 8 after the hurry downs, and yeah, that was a little bit too much from him. Phil Kraus on the button, Rameza Zam on the button, trying to hold off from teammate Walton. Walton wasn't on the button though, and Phil Kraus is going to gain that spot. What a charge it has been, and he is up to 4th.
And this is where those tires are coming in very nicely. In the top 7, or top 8 I should say, only Phil Kraus is on those red mark tires. He's been on them for about 8 laps or so, so he is approaching that crucial drop-off point where he'll want to get off these tires and make his way back onto those blacks. He would have run the 1 stint on each of the tires, so free tire choice for the remainder of the action. On board with Oscar Mangan down the hill and looking to try and maximize the track there to get the run on the car in front of him. Can he look to the inside? He's a bit too far behind, and I think the Irishman knows that he can't afford to be too aggressive at this point in time, Lorenzo. There are championship points on the line.
Especially if you're trying to battle Valtteri going to the final race in the Indy 500 here. So he has to be patient. You cannot overcommit that car or overshot the braking and lock the fronts out of that car. If you lock the fronts, basically you're toasted. You're not going to be able to get some good runs. You will eventually take about 2 to 3 laps to the tire cool down. And this is not one of those tracks that you can easily cool down the tires. So you have to be kind of delicate on the braking, but at the same time, somewhat aggressive on lifting off the car and just trying to carry as much speed as you can possibly carry before braking.
And it's an interesting setup challenge if we really do drop those temperatures to 28 degrees Celsius. We were talking about this earlier today. It's about a second in terms of every 10 degrees Celsius, so decrease and increase in terms of lap time delta. There's Seppa just spinning himself around. Not exactly sure if he just locked up and all sorts of weight transfer going wrong there. Here we go though, Azam and Kraus both on the button. Long way around, nowhere to go for Kraus. Over under though, down the hill. Azam is going to cover him off, force once more Kraus to go the long way around, but it's hard to count out the number 19 car at this point in time, Lewis, because he's back on the button.
Yeah, they are using this button thick and fast right now, whether it's the right call or not. But, I mean, Phil Kraus needed to use it, not only to attack Azam, but also to defend from Azam's teammate. This is it on the run down towards turn 5. They're on the brakes. They're heavy. It's going to go around the outside.
Oh.
It is done from Phil Kraus. Nicely done around the outside. You said you didn't want to be on the outside as we head up towards Corvette Bridge. Well, if you get it done before that, absolutely fine. Oscar Mangan also a part of that. And then gaining the positions.
You know what's important here? Sorry, Arjuna. He actually made both since the cars locked their brakes.
Right.
Oh, and they'll have heated up their tires, and I think that's partially why Mangan was able to slip around and get up back into the top 5. This is so much fun right now, and I must say, Alander, it's a nice little Saturday drive for him right now. He's about 8 seconds clear, no real pressure from the cars behind. Last time around, he was almost a second and a half quicker than Joshua Chin. And, you know, these guys scrapping it out is just going to let Alander build up that gap and build up his comfort level. Almost 20 laps in the books here and almost halfway through this one. Only one caution. It's been pretty clean since then, Lorenzo.
Yeah, it's been very clean after we got the first restart out of this race. And talking about Alander, he's basically doing laps in the end of life for the red band. So it's, you guys were talking about his performance with the primaries. I think he's loving those primaries. If I'm Firestone rep, I probably would give him a contract, lifetime contract in terms of primary compounds for him.
If anyone from Firestone is watching Arjuna at RaceSpotTV.
Oh, Oscar!
Oh, and Pedro Sanchez Albert just about gets through. That is crucial in that battle for second place in the championship. Once more, a car around in turn number 1, and it's the Irishman, Oscar Mangan, who's going to have to pull that core sim racing car all the way around this very long lap, Lewis, to get damage repaired to his machine.
Somehow, he's not actually broke too much of the suspension. I don't know whether it's tracking straight or what, but it looked like it was a fairly solid hit on the nose, so already losing it. It was actually off of the curb. That is a mighty whack into the barrier. Speechless. Again, just a part of the battle, getting carried away with it, and yeah, you're absolutely right. That could be second in the championship, basically gone up in smoke right there.
Mangan's still in 7th, so never say never. If he can nurse his car back, he might still be in a good pit window to get there with just an additional stop after this one. There you can see into the wall, and the tires suck you in and spit him around, and around he goes. The 99 car after victory last time on the streets of Long Beach. It's going to be a much more difficult day for him, as now Cy Andra, Manuel Domingo, and Battleslag Reminick will have to try and get on past. Fortunately, it's only, it appears, to be front wing damage, only that front nose cone, maybe some steering damage that you see there. And we'll have to wait and see. Now he's got some more gap behind to Adam Crane, so shouldn't have to slow too much more to come down onto pit road. But that is heartbreak for the Irishman. He said, talking to Justin Prince in the pre-race, his main goal was solidifying second in this championship. Well, he's going to have a lot of work come. The Brickyard and our 500 miles at Speedway, Indiana.
You don't see mistakes that often from Oscar Mangan. I will say yesterday was involved in a brilliant race between himself and Jürgen Frank for a victory. Really was a stunning effort. A great racecraft between the pair of them. This time, though, just pushing it just way too hard going through turn 1. And turn 1 bites around here, and it bites big. We've already seen it earlier today. Now we've seen it with Oscar Mangan. It's not over yet. Don't get me wrong. We'll try and repair the damage. I'm concerned there was a little bit of left hand down there. Might be a little bit of suspension damage in there. I'm not sure how long it takes to repair all of that. Will probably be quite a while. If you could, though, stay on the lead lap, if you could just deal with it as there's a bit of a dive, it might not be that bad. In the sense of, like, if there's a safety car or something late on, you can bounce back, you can recover. You've just got to keep going to the checkered flag.
Yeah, I think now it's going to be that mental perseverance that he's going to have to rely on. Still in the pit road. I see the front wing has been replaced at 25 seconds and counting from Mangan, as Valtteri Alander is just about to come in towards the final couple of corners. He might actually drop one lap down at this point, so that would be much more difficult for him to fight back from. Still watching this battle that just went on past Mangan. Domingo and Reminick chasing down Cy Andra. And indeed, Mangan will be one lap down, because here comes your race leader across the start-finish line. So unfortunate then for the Irishman. I am noting, by the way, as Chin gets on the button, Valtteri Alander has used none of his 10 push-to-passes so far. It is an incredible amount of performance that he has underneath him. The gap to Joshua Chin, almost 10 full seconds.
Just smart. It's just smart. That's what it was all about with the Lando. It's what we said earlier. The push to passes just save them until later. I'm a bit surprised as to why Josh Chin just used one, because the way I see it is if you don't have to use one, don't use one, because if a safety car of a caution comes out, if you're then bunched back up into the pack, if you're Valtteri Lander and you make a mistake on strategy again, as we saw from Long Beach, and you have to work your way through the pack, well, having more push to passes than everyone else, that could be an absolute blessing when it comes to the final part of the race, if anything were to happen. And if it doesn't happen, then use some push to pass and have a bit of fun before we get to the end of the race. If you've got a big gap, why not?
I'm just wondering, I saw on my screen that Chin came out just in front of Oscar Mangan. I wonder if he used the button to just make sure he would be in front of that lapped car, to make sure that he had some clean air in front of him. But you never know, maybe also feeling the pressure from his teammate behind, because Kraus is only 2 seconds away at this point, Lorenzo.
Yeah, and he was actually 0.2 of a second faster in the last lap in comparison to what Chin has been able to do. But we have come to remind ourselves that Chin is on his tail end of the stint, right? He's on 11 laps, so he's due to come into the pit lane in about a lap or 3, like worst case scenario, and air caps right around the worst, because he might stand it for 14 laps, which is full stint. But what Kraus has been doing with those red compounds has been nothing short of amazing. So, you know, if he actually closes the gap, I don't think Kraus would go for it. I think he would just try to stay behind as best as he can from Chin so far.
You saw Azam getting back on the button. He's only got 2 usages left to go in this race. He's going to have to now rely on his racecraft to make sure he can get positions and defend positions at this point in time. Chin back on the button, trying, I think, to just watch in his rear view mirrors as Kraus continues to charge him down. Almost halfway through this race, we are at the point where if you came down onto pit road, like I think someone like Joshua Chin, who is 12 laps into his stint, is moments away from doing, it'd be a one-stopper from here to the end.
Yeah, I think Chin might go maybe 1 lap longer just to make everything nice and balanced. He was, oh, look at that moment from Phil Kraus, though. What a save. And now he's under pressure from the Simsa Esports duo. It's Walton and Azam. Azam's the next one behind him. Little bit of a mistake there over the crest, and that could have been very, very costly indeed. Was pushing very hard, the young American, and yeah, just managed to get back on top of it. By the way, I think Josh Chin was more on the button to defend from the 2 that were battling behind, not being for position to him, but more so because they were positioned to each other, being Oscar Mangan and Vilda Waller.
Oh, Azam, 1 usage left as he's going to go down the inside of Kraus here. I think those red mark tires are really starting to show their age at this point in time. Kraus, as you said, very sideways over the crest of the hill and truly into that crossover point, and now he is the filling with the Simsa bread. I got it right this time around, Lewis. I got it right.
Thank you. I'm proud of you. I am proud of you. So proud.
And Azam straight down onto pit road. So interesting that he'd burn his penultimate push to pass when he knew he would be coming down this very lap. Chin is also down this time around. It's almost halfway through, and now Kraus is left to defend from Alexander Walton in through turn 1. Kraus holds on, but those black mark tires that Walton has are looking very strong, Lorenzo.
Hey, it's looking very strong, and I like what kind of Simsa is doing. You know, just have one driver apply the pressure, stay in front of him, and go into the pit lane, and have the other driver, which is right on pace with field stints, go and be just as aggressive as Walton goes in the button, and Kraus has nothing to do whatsoever with that push to pass.
And I think Kraus is just going to rely now on letting him pass and just following him for the next lap or so until Kraus can come down and get the black mark tires back on to the number 19 Team Talent machine. Gap out front, 14 seconds between Alander and Walton, but again, it is more interesting to see if this undercut works in the favor of Joshua Chin, but this time he's followed in by Ramez Azam, and I'm just taking a look. Did Azam have a slightly slower stop? Yes, he did. It was 9.6 seconds stationary for Azam as compared to 9.5. So excuse me, no, it wasn't that much difference, but really the gap has continued to be just as large between the 2 of them in through the kink. Let's see if either one of these cars comes down this time around, Lewis.
I think you might see them stay out. I mean, maybe Phil Kraus is going to be in the pit lane. Maybe Walton, though, will continue. They've still, with the length they've been on these tyres right now, they could go a good another couple of laps before it becomes any sort of issue, and you might just be helping yourself later on in the race if you go a bit further here. But we'll have to wait and see. Out of the final corner, no one ahead has pitted, and these lot don't either. I think they'll be coming in the next couple of laps, but right now, like you say, you're thinking more long term, you're thinking more covering things off a bit later on.
And so officially halfway through, it's been a wild ride so far here. And I mean, after a caution on lap number 1, it's been pretty clean since then. Very much, I think, self-inflicted mistakes catching drivers out as Manuel Domingo is down onto the pit road from 8th position. He'll relinquish that spot and get some fresh tires onto his machine. He is currently running on the red mark alternate tires. And Lorenzo, you have potentially thought about a strategy that some of these drivers might elect to use as Joshua Chin back on the button, trying to get past Pierre Verne. This is not for track position. It is just to try and get some clean air.
Yeah, trying to get some clean air right there as he actually makes quick work out of Pierre Verne right there. I was taking a look at that, and if he pitted right around lap 24, got out on 25, I think that's a full service. He would pit right around lap 28, 20, like 38, 39. You would give him right around a 12, 13 lap cushion that you can work with. You would put right around 50.8 gallons, around 16 gallons, which is right about 55 to 57 liters of fuel, and just run until the end of the race with some red compounds to try to be fast with it.
Looking good for the private label Team Hype driver, obviously in affiliation with Team Talent. Also drives for Team Chimera when it comes to the endurance side of things. That's where the fuel-saving ability has come into play, and let's see if he can do something similar. His teammate in front, Andreas Eich, I don't think will want to try and hold him up for too long at this point in time. Here comes Phil Kraus down onto pit lane, so there goes the number 19 car. He's elected to come down this time around, gets onto the brakes just in time. And is that more damage to Oscar Mangan in the 99 car?
Ooh, back in pit lane, I don't quite see. I don't know what's happened to him either way, but this round, I mean, yeah, you can see it, front right wing, front left side of the wing rather gone.
I know what happened here, Lewis, and I've just gone and taken a look. He had a big moment coming in through the kink on this last lap. Lost control, and fortunately, if you ask me, has gotten away with relatively minor damage for the second consecutive time, because when you're going at that sort of speed, almost 300 kilometers an hour, flat out into the corner, things can go very, very wrong. Pit lane is a busy place. Here's a look at that replay, and you'll just see it's not even getting onto the grass. It's just a wiggle, Lewis, and car instantly goes around on him.
Yeah, the thing with this is, to be honest, respectfully speaking, why take the risk? Why try? I mean, I don't get me wrong, it's a hard corner anyway, regardless of what you do, but why take any risk with your entry through the kink or anything, or any of the corners? When you're a lap down, just drive, just, you know, smoothly drive. If you pick up some positions, great. You're more so hoping for a caution. You're hoping for something, right? There's no need to push it that far, because what realistically are you going to gain?
Interesting also to see that Azam, who has just gone past Peter Zuber, is about 2 and a bit seconds clear of Phil Kraus, so the undercut working nicely for Azam. But even more interestingly is the fact that Lorenzo Kraus has come back onto these red mark alternate tires, as guess who's into pit road? It's your race leader, Valtteri Alander.
And let's see what strategy does Valtteri goes for on this pit stop. I think he's gonna go back to the alternate, but given his space in the race, we've mentioned, I think, this 300 times already, it doesn't matter what compound he chooses, he just decides to be faster than everybody else.
He would be the trendsetter, though, if he decided to stay on these black mark tires. Nope, he shed them and onto the red mark alternate tires for the second time today. Drops himself off the jacks, revs that engine, and instantly releases himself on the speed limit. That's the advantage of having that first pit box, is being able to pull yourself directly back up to racing speed. The rest of the field streaks their way down. It's Walton just finishing up his pit stop as Chin will retake second position. It might be close between Walton and the rest of the guys he was battling with. Walton is just coming off of pit road. He has fell in front of Phil Kraus, but behind Ramez Azam. So all sorts of interesting things happening in this pit cycle, and it will be interesting, Lewis, if Phil Kraus is able to pull himself back up towards the top 3 spots.
Yeah, Kraus's speed there just seems to have dropped off a little bit. We'll try and close his way back in. Know how much talent he's got around this venue, and definitely not ruling out a podium. So he could get onto the podium today, and looking very good, at least to give that an attempt. But the Simsa Esport bunch are doing a lot better here. They're doing really, really well together here after they made contact in the last round. It wasn't these two, but there was contact between them at the hairpin. The Simsa Esport bunch. We'll see. I'm not sure what happened to it, whether it was investigated and finished, or whether they're waiting until the end of the race. But do remember as well, obviously with the contact between Ramez Azam and Christian Steele earlier in the race down at turn 1, it was suggested that the incident was under investigation. I think might have got away with it because it was a 3-wide cluster and all that. But either way, he's had the eye of race control already on him this afternoon.
Yeah, that is something to watch out for. It will be a post-race intervention at this point, so we'll wait and see exactly how things shake up, and something just to keep our mind and eyes on. As now Phil Kraus right on the back of Alexander Walton. As I've just seen Iku Merakala has jumped into our YouTube chat. He's been enjoying, I think, some time outside, taking some wonderful pictures. There goes Zuba down onto pit road, releases these two to continue battling. And yes, Iku, don't worry, your driver is still leading this race, doing very, very well. At this point in time, replacement Matti Siepel doing a great job to call the strategy as Walton just blocks off the momentum from Phil Kraus. These guys now about 4 seconds, 3 and a bit seconds, behind Ramez Azam. It might ultimately be that battle for the third and final step on the podium. We will have to wait and see, Lorenzo.
We have to wait and see, and Kraus, being so far conservative on the push to pass. He could have gone for it, try to close the gap as best he can on Alex Walton, but didn't decide to go for it. So I think he's just using the jab, because the problem for Walton, he has Pierre Verne right in front of him, and he has more wasted tires, 12 laps for Pierre. So that could work in the favor for Kraus right now. He just have to work patiently and see the gap opening for him to go at.
And I think more heartbreak for Riley Thompson, of course, was charging hard on that restart to work his way through the field on Red Mark tire. I think he's had a technical failure down into Canada corner and straight into the tire barrier. Looking real words from Pierre Verne as Alexander Walton gets on the button. Verne has responded. Interesting call here for Verne to try and maybe defend from the charging Simsa car, with Phil Kraus in close pursuit. On board with the German down the inside. He is going to look and going to make it look very, very easy on those fresher tires. Now will Phil Kraus have to respond coming up the main straightaway here?
Yeah, I think so. He has to get by as soon as possible. Depends on when Pierre Verne enters pit lane. I'd suggest he'd hope for it to be this lap, but Phil Kraus isn't waiting for the answer to that. Is Pierre Verne going to come in? Yes, absolutely. Phil Kraus had no interest in seeing if it was going to be out of the final corner or not. Just fancied, I need to get through now, and kind of feel that he did. Phil Kraus is losing a bit of time, losing touch of the podium now, and really needed to just get on with it.
And now into the last 20 or so laps. Let's see exactly how things are going to cycle out. 5 laps from now, we could see cars coming down to pit road for the final time today. And we'll see exactly how it shakes out. Verne is followed in by Benson Emphy into the pit road. So the 2 race clutch cars are in the box and releasing themselves into what should be 14th position, right behind Isaac Morris in the 63 machine. I don't think there is anyone on too much of an alternate strategy at this point in time. The only car, Lorenzo, that I can kind of see that's running long right now is Alexander Van der Sat, but he's in danger of going 1 lap down as things stand. But with 1 stop to go from the end for the young guy making his debut in ISOWC competition, he might be still looking at a top 20 finish after being hit down into turn 5 on the restart.
Yeah, that is really unfortunate, having been clipped by Hugo Olsen at the start of the race and then having to claw himself back up. But one of the stars of the Lionheart IndyCar Series has been quite doing well on this race until the point of the crash, but of course will struggle on these end tires as Ron Vaz decided to take a little bit of a turn into the grass and sand right before the carousel. On
board with the 007 of Henry Bennett. Let's see what he can do. I think there's just been a new fastest lap set, and guess who? Fastest lap powered by ATVO on 42.522. It is the championship leader. It is side by side though, and Bennett is going to make it look easy because I think Yao Vaz knows his tires might be just a little bit cooked, and he needs to just settle them down and get himself back into their peak operating window so he can try and fight for what will be 11th and 12th positions. These guys 40 seconds behind the race leader with 20 laps to go, Lorenzo. If we get a caution now, things are blown wide open.
And things are blown, I think, more than wide open. You get like the full gate, like the Brandenburg gate, and everybody will have to scramble, I think, into the pit lane and sort out their strategies. But so far, there has been a good running out of this race. I think we got 25 laps clean of race so far. So I don't expect to see another yellow flag, but I've been proven wrong so many times, and the commentators' curse for me has been so strong that I can actually kind of draw out a yellow flag just because I said it.
I tell you what, I'm going to knock on all the wood, and I'm going to incur the wrath potentially of those RaceSpotTV cursed gods. George Simmons, if you're watching, you can get started on Valtteri Alander's diecast because as it stands, all 6 bonus points are going to go his way. His main championship rival is down in 25th position, so he's only going to accumulate a handful of points. And in fact, Pedro Sanchez Albert in 6th, who was 3rd in the championship, almost 50 points behind coming into today's action. It's a little bit too far behind to make anything work. So race victory and all of those bonus points will effectively secure the championship for the 77 heading into that final round. And Lewis, it really does relieve the pressure on him going into that final race because, like we said, he's only got 3 open wheel oval races under his belt. And while he did very, very strongly at the Auto Club Speedway, Indianapolis is its own challenge when it comes to driving a Dallara IR18 around there, and it means he can just go have some fun and learn as much as he can.
Yeah, it would have been a high pressure environment, whereas now it's more like I've done my work this season, I might as well just go out there and have fun. Of course, with Valtteri Alander coming into this round, we knew he meant business. He was disappointed with how the last 2 races had gone. He came here with one goal, and that goal was to not win, was to dominate, and that is exactly what has gone on. A bit of lap traffic there being Oscar Mangan just getting out of the way a few laps down. Just a terrible day for Oscar Mangan, unfortunately, in the Course Sim Racing car. For Course Sim Racing in general, it's been a bad day. Qualified very well, had all the potential, were working their way forward. Janssen had issues, Mangan had issues, and now they are sat basically by the wayside as the battles continue. This will be a bit of a switch again. Yao Vaz, Henry Bennett once again trying to close up, but no way through for Yao Vaz right now. Looking to the inside, but no commitment.
I think trying to just preserve the tires for the remainder of this run. It is closed up, by the way, for 3rd and 4th position as Alexander Walton gets on the button out of the carousel, in through the kink and down towards Canada corner. Is he going to pull the move on his teammate? Zam is going to make it easy on him, I do think, and indeed it is going to be a Zam outside line, and as Alexander Walton promoted into the podium positions with Phil Kraus now trying to chase down the 172 car. Lots of work for Kraus still to do, but on a bit of a charge. 9 positions gained as Kraus, and in terms of movers and shakers, Pedro Sanchez Albert down 1, kind of stalled out where he is in that top 10. Manuel Domingo Lorenzo up 15 positions from where he started.
Yeah, what a drive from the Radicals driver, right? And just staying within the top 10, but having a little bit of a trouble right now because he has to fend off Adam Grain, and Adam looking really pacey so far. And now I cannot say another thing. Manuel just decided to spin in the final turn.
Oh, the commentator's curse. Lorenzo, you are well and true. And there you can see the stricken Radicals on race, a track racing car. Lorenzo just needs to stop saying nice things about drivers. I think that's what we need to say. As Yao Vaz is on the button and trying to get past Henry Bennett. They're side by side, and I think it's the Yas Heat driver back up into the top 10. Henry Bennett not choosing to fight that one for now. Vaz only down to 3 push to passes left to go, whereas Henry Bennett still has 8 usages left. Plenty of opportunities for the British driver to try and make things happen. 18 laps to go. We are moments away from entering that pit window, and I will say, if I am Joshua Chin, you are 8 laps into your stint, you don't want to necessarily come down at the first time of asking. That is very reminiscent, Lorenzo, of what we saw with Riley Thompson just a couple of laps ago.
Yeah, the grass is lava, so I think just taking that accelerator on the dip of the grass was enough for him to lose control. And like Riley actually caught up on the brakes really quickly and avoided the crash nose first into the tire barrier, but lost the time eventually. I think he lost about 2 spots to Jean Vaz and Henry Bennett. So damage has been not the biggest one considering where he was in the track.
We are now looking then at Phil Kraus hunting down Ramez Azam. Lots of confidence on the side of the Wisconsin native, and now everyone in the top 14 is on these red mark tires. So as the track continues to cool, it is down to 36 degrees Celsius. I say continue to cool, Lewis. It has really not budged too much from where we started.
No, it's still very, very hot, which is good for those drivers that are comfortable on the primary tyres, that are comfortable on the tyres in general, that are able to do a lap after lap, not locking up, not sliding them through the corner, just driving within the limits of the car, which, trust me, is a lot harder than you'd think. But, you know, before you drive, you think, oh, look, these cars all look glued to the racetrack. Oh, contraire, they most certainly are not, especially all the bumps around here. It takes a masterful level of driving to just complete laps consistently, and we've seen tyres working against some drivers. I mean, Phil Kraus a bit earlier, obviously the Red Bull tyres a bit earlier on in the previous stint were kind of slipping away in those final moments, and that may change your approach in the next stint. Oh, I won't attack so much, and then they'll be better later on in the stint, and somehow it all still lines up. They're still garbage for the final 2 laps, but at the moment Phil Kraus doing a good job, still in touching distance of the podium. Walton getting past Azam on this part of the circuit a couple of laps ago, is able to pull away a little bit, but still within 2 seconds of Kraus. Kraus needs to get by Azam pretty sharpish, might go for a slight undercut here, maybe pitting on around about 12, maybe 13 laps to go, which is kind of where we're expecting the limit to be. More so that most people will come in at 12 just to cover off any risk.
Have you guys noticed what's happening in that gap for second and third positions? Alexander Walton is a man on a mission. The gap to Joshua Chin down to 2.7 seconds. The last couple of laps, the SimC Esports driver has been trying to reel him in. This time around, actually loses a couple of tenths of a second, but I wonder if that was a mistake from Walton, because Azam has been brought back into this battle for third position. So really, it's anyone's game, I think, for second and third. Those final 2 steps on the podiums, Lorenzo.
Yeah, and I think that was the blueprint going into this race. That was unfortunate that we had Oscar going out early in the race and having to repair his car. Maybe we could have seen a battle in terms of strategies for first place, but I'm liking where I'm seeing this fight for second and third, because it is wide open. Joshua Chin is not out of the woods yet, even though he has 3 push to pass left. But if we are to talk about push to pass advantage, the only one who has the big advantage over here is Phil Kraus. He has 5, whereas everybody else has 3 or 1 in the case of Ramez Azam.
It's all about managing and rationing those push to passes, an extra 70 horsepower or so that you can use 10 different times over the course of the race itself. Slightly different from how it works in the real world, where it's an allotment of seconds that you can ration out. Instead, we get the usage as kind of that older school model that was used back in the day. On board with Pierre Verne, who's chasing down his teammate Peter Zuba. This is 15th and 16th positions. Race Clutch have had a up and down season, to be honest, but Verne really did emerge one of the shining lights in the carnage last time around to work his way onto the podium, as I think there might be some more cars. You can see Austin Espety and Hugo Olsen are both on the bottom. That's 21st and 22nd position. They're just trying to make sure that they can keep their gaps relatively steady throughout the entire field. We've seen some incredible action here today, Lewis, and we've just reached that point of the race where the tires are really screaming out in agony. The drivers are trying to wring every ounce of performance out of their cars. We are in the pit stop window. Who is going to be the first to bite?
Yeah, I think it might just be a touch later. They'll keep continuing until they feel they have to. But as soon as one person comes down, everyone will be down. They'll all follow each other down there. I will say, if there's one person I wouldn't really want to be right now, it's Ramez Azam, who I think his chance of a podium is still there. I just think it's going to be a harder fight than for others, because how many times are you using the push to pass earlier? He's burnt through most of them. You were saying he's got 1 left to go. That is, like I say, I get it. You know, you want to go on the attack early on or whatever, but it's not thinking long game. It's not thinking big picture. It's not thinking about going for something a bit towards the end of the race, Lorenzo.
Yeah, it resembles on me a little bit of what the Gustav Grinsbergas actually did in Long Beach. Not in the ISOWC specifically, but in the Monday nights when we ran in Long Beach. churned like crazy. He has pushed the pass, managed to claw up into the field. But whenever he had to defend for positions, he had none whatsoever. But luckily for him, Long Beach is a different track than this.
I think our producer Hugo Luis has just seen the same thing that I've seen on my replay. A bizarre incident for Isaac Morris in the 63, who was having a really strong run. Here we go. You'll take a look at it. Just out of nowhere, there's something in the ground. Isaac Morris ends up on his roof. He'll be delighted that the aero screen is there to protect him from some debris that went flying. Unfortunate for Isaac Morris that his day has come to an end like that, because he was really looking very strong. Sorry, Lorenzo, I know you were talking about something, but I'm going to be honest. I was too busy watching that and watching the replay over and over. Heartbreak then for the number 63 car, who I think was running very strongly at points in this race, Lewis.
I will say, back in the day, I mean, I don't know how many times you've seen a video of what is classified as a landmine, you know, going up over a curb and firing it off. They used to be not commonplace, but they used to happen, you know, every now and then, whatever. It happens, and it's not just an iRacing, this happens everywhere in sim racing. It's just a classic thing of, you know, car meets track curb meets bug or whatever. It's very rare to see it these days. I genuinely, hand on heart, I actually haven't seen one on iRacing in a broadcast, so very rare. I feel very bad for Morris. That's rough.
Oh, I feel horrible for him. I mean, wow, what a way for your race to come to an end. You'll head to the Brickyard to try and get some redemption from this gap out front. Let's just point out what an easy day again it's been for Valtteri Alander. We're hoping that the commentator's curse will strike on the flying fin. Might be the only way we have a championship race come the Brickyard in 500 miles of action. He is 17 seconds clear of Joshua Chin. 17 seconds with 13 laps to go. It is absolutely extraordinary, the charge he's had so far. And if things go like this, Lorenzo, what can you say other than he will be a worthy championship winner, as I think Joshua Chin is down onto pit road. Here comes Ramez Azam as well.
Yeah, it's downright just insane what he's been doing. But why you pass it up to me? I've been the guy who's doing the commentator's curse, and you pass it up to me.
Exactly.
Say nice things. Is this a nefarious tactic of Arjuna Kakipati trying to curse as best as he can Kova, then try to pin upon me?
Yeah, it's passing it off.
He actually spins out. Okay.
Exactly. I'm just trying to get some of that Lorenzo magic to work so we could have some fun in 2 weeks' time, because it's got, otherwise there is definitely going to be a lot on the line when we head there. So many championship positions further back will be up for grabs. A pride will be on the line, and of course an increased per race prize pool for that 500-mile race. Yeah, we just want some excitement. Valtteri Alander will have a very different challenge. The one thing, Lewis, that will somewhat benefit him, as Manuel Domingo is down onto pit road this time around as well, is when I made the transition to IndyCar. The first thing that I was told is that racing at Indianapolis is much more like at a road course than any other oval is. And let's be honest, that's true, because it is relatively flat banking. It's about nailing your turn-in points, making sure you know how to deal with the dirty air. These are all things that Alander will be able to work with the team talent and core sim racing guys in that team technical affiliation to really master.
Well, it's one of those things that we've spoken about a little bit before of, you know, if you're new to motorsport or sim racing or whatever, you know, back in the day, those that have never raced Indianapolis, you always sit there, you always watch it, and you always assume it's oval racing. You know, just turning left. It's easy, especially at Indy. Flat out or whatever in qualifying. How hard can it be? Very hard is what it could be, especially when you're in the middle of the race. You've got dirty air to deal with. You've got slipstream. You've got strategy. You've got this. You've got that. It's insanely difficult. You've got so much to juggle. And with how we've got it and how raceable it can be, I think we're going to see a very interesting race at the 500 to end the season. But there's only one way to find out, and that's to wait a little bit to get there. We still have 12 laps of this race to sort out. Phil Krause into the pit lane, same with Pedro Sanchez-Albert and Adam Crane.
Let's see where Krause comes out in comparison with Ramez Azam. My timing screen is playing some tricks on me because it's saying Azam spent 0.2 seconds stationary on pit road. Joshua Chin is coming out of coming across the line. There's Azam, and where is Kraus in relation? He feeds out right in front, but not up to speed. Azam sweeps around the outside. It is going to be an interesting battle when Alexander Walton makes his way down onto pit road. 12 laps to go here, and it really is a three-way fight for third. Joshua Chin has a little bit of a gap in front of him. Let's see exactly how this will play out, Lorenzo.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how this one is going to play out. When Mongan is actually going to let Phil Kraus go by right before the turn, so that's the proper way to do. And now it's all on Kraus to try to get closer on Azam. The first lap will not be the best for Kraus to do that job. I think after his first out, after the out lap is where the fun begins for Kraus, and I think the scary moments will begin as I'm trying to defend the best he can from the Team Talent driver.
Does Walton respond straight away, though?
Ooh, that's a good call. I would say maybe yes, because those tires will be at the edge of the cutoff window. I mean, we're still talking about track temperatures of 34 degrees Celsius. I would not be surprised, but Walton is staying out there for the time being. Henry Bennett is embroiled in a battle with Austin Espety, but Espety runs a little bit wide. That was kicking up some gravel, and Andrew Marquez, I think, is just getting himself up to speed, or rather is on some rather old tires, so just trying to make his way back down onto pit road to get to the end of this race. To go back to the point you were making, Lewis, Indianapolis and the 500 qualifying, it might actually be the toughest thing that you can do in all of motorsports. I don't just think that myself. I was talking to Zach Campbell about that, and he's a world championship driver, of course, competed for Team RLL in the 2021 Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup, and he was saying nailing 4 laps at the Indianapolis Oval, when you take off all the downforce, you put the pressure on the driver to nail it with the in-car tools, because you're not just keeping them stationary. You will be moving the weight jacker around. You will be adjusting ARBs if necessary as well. To keep on top of that, to make sure you hit every single one of your marks. It is 16 corners that you have to hit perfectly. It is such a tough thing to do.
And one corner. Oh, how many times we spoke about this? You go into turn 1, you take a little bit too much speed, you're just scrubbing a bit too much on the front right. Throw the stint in the bin. It's almost pointless at that point. And you think that, oh, it's an overreaction. No, it's a momentum-based thing. You're flat out for that entire section. It means that any mistake you make is so costly, because it'll end basically the entire run. You can't just, it's not like in a standard qualifying where you just lift off, cool the tyres down, and then go on the next lap. No, it's the whole thing needs to be put together in one beautiful section. It is insanely difficult. By the way, didn't come down the lap that we were thinking, but Alexander Walton is now into pit lane, as is Valtteri Alander. This is looking like it's going to be the perfect drive from the Finn. 10 laps to go, 10 laps to really enjoy this one with such a large lead. I think it's around about 20 seconds.
Cool, calm and collected, taking a brief sip of water before he releases himself back out onto track. Let's now track Alexander Walton and see exactly where he's going to be in relation to the cars he's fighting. Joshua Chin is already coming across the start-finish line, but it's going to be close with Phil Kraus and Ramez Azam, who is going to come out on top here. There's Chin, there's Walton releasing himself. Kraus will be in front. There's going to be work for Walton to do. And of course, Lorenzo, potential penalty coming down to the 65 car.
Yeah, potential penalty coming from 65. Remembering he actually got into contact with Pedro Sanchez Albert and Christian Steele, most specifically Steele. He'd gone off track, had to tow the car back to the pits. That's what caused the first yellow flag in here. But now the work is all on Walton. Can he close on Kraus, and how Kraus actually negotiates this, because he's right in the middle of a Simsa sandwich.
Let's see how this plays out. And well, hey, Lewis.
Yeah, no, I was about. I'm woo, a Simsa sandwich.
Just to clarify here, the bread is Simsa. The filling is Team Talent. So just
do
to make
like
sure,
how you picked up on that, by the way.
I caught it straight away. I got called up on you by it earlier, so I've been very, very careful about calling it correctly. It's a Team Talent sandwich with Simsa Esports bread. Ramez Azam has used his last push to pass, and now he will be stricken. 9 laps left to go. Phil Kraus still has 4 usages left. Valtteri Alander, for the first time, releases himself from the calm, cool, collected state he's been in and gets on the button to pull himself even further. And maybe we'll see a fastest lap coming down from the Flying Finn. He's already got those 2 bonus points, but let's be honest, Lorenzo, he just wants to have some fun and show exactly how quick he can be.
Yeah, I'm surprised they actually used the push to pass.
You thought he was going to go
50
laps without using a push to pass. That's a lot of mental restraint to do so. Kraus is on the button. Kraus is up into second. Azam is going to have to concede. And really now the question becomes, Lorenzo, can Walton get to the back of the 19 car?
It's going to be interesting right now because Walton is 1.3 seconds away and Azam has nothing whatsoever in terms of push to passes. He has to use the draft, and you know, draft is strong over here, but I know Kraus set up a little bit up to the point that his top speed can kind of outmatch what Simsa is doing on a normal basis, so it's going to be right on skills for Walton to get by.
It's not crucial, I guess, in the championship picture, but Pedro Sanchez Albert has taken the fastest lap away from Valtteri Alander, a 1:42.466. So 2 bonus points now would go to the 777, extend his advantage for second place in the championship going into that final round. It's going to be between Pedro Sanchez Albert and Oscar Mangan. And of course, Mangan is still out there and circulating. He has managed to recover himself up into 24th position, so he'll get 6 points to his name. You can also see Adam Crane, after coming down in that first caution, the only driver in the top 10 to have taken 4 pit stops over the course of the previous 41 laps. With 9 laps still to go, Crane will make his way to the end. The VRS Satellite Racing team, 7th and 8th position. A bit more consistent for them, but of course we've seen some very strong pace. And I think for Crane, correct me if I'm wrong here, Lewis, he's been basically mixed up in all sorts of carnage in every single round we've had so far.
Yeah, always been in the thick end of things when it comes to the broadcast action, and great to see, like I say, up inside the top 10. Early issues, but responding to them very well. Walton now sets the fastest lap of the race as he's chasing down the return to the podium onto the rear end of Ramez Azam. This should be a fairly easy switch between the two teammates. If Simsa Esports want the podium, they will not have a fight here. Just going to dish off some slipstream to the teammate. Push to pass being used by Walton should be an easy move. And there you go, not even covered off. Smart work for them. They are desperate to catch Phil Kraus and get the podium back.
It's not just Phil Kraus, it's Joshua Chin, a 43.421 for the King of Chins last time around. Phil Kraus, a 42.908, and of course Walton with the 42.380, 1 second quicker than the King of Chins, and the gap, Lorenzo, between Chin and Kraus is almost 1 second at this point in time.
It's almost nothing, literally nothing, as actually is around the second as they go into the carousel. So if Chin says something up in his sleeve, he has to pull it out now to try to retain that P2, because there are 3 cars that are looking kind of pacey and angry to take that position away out of the private label team hype driver.
The private label team hype machine is watching on as well. I did see part of their team watching and cheering on their man. Watching also to see Valtteri Alander. There we go. Fastest lap powered by ATVO. And look at that. A 1:41.951. That is almost 4 full tenths quicker than Alexander Walton. Just shows how quick Alander is and has saved those push to passes. He started with 10 at the start of this run. 3 laps in, he is down to 3. Shows you what 70 horsepower can do. Additional over about 600 or 700 horsepower that these Dallara IRA teams have. But look at this. Battle for third. Walton is going to be all over the rear wing of Phil Kraus coming out of turn number 3.
Yeah, let's be honest, Valtteri Lander's just been having a bit of fun, and I think fun is what we're going to see, at least visually, from this battle. I don't think the drivers involved in it are going to have too much fun, because they're going to have to go to work for the final 7 laps of this race. Simsa are here to battle for the podium. Walton all the way over the rear end of Phil Kraus, and you're absolutely right. Josh Chin, who's been second most of the day, looks like that might come to an end. He may not even get a podium here. He doesn't look pacey enough for it.
It was 8 tenths slower than Kraus last time around, 1.4 slower than Alexander Walton, who did a 1:42.414, so still a lot of pace in that 172 car. They have dropped Ramez Azam, and Azam is going to have to try and build up some sort of a buffer, given that if he does get a penalty, it would be about 30 seconds added to his race time. That would drop into the edge of the top 10 as things stand. This is going to be fun, and this is going to be close. I wonder if Kraus and Chin can work together, Lorenzo, to try and fend off the challenge of the 172.
It's going to be interesting.
Was there contact there? Does Kraus have a broken left rear suspension? It looks okay for now. Through Bill Mitchell Bend, they continue to run.
That somehow, someway, Walton manages to survive this wing-to-wing contact, but I'm interested to see if Kraus has some sort of damage because they're not going to use the push to pass here. We are about 6 to go, and I think Chin might be saving fuel here a little bit.
But why would he need to save fuel? He is 7 laps
That
into his
my
run.
mind, too.
It's not sure, and Chin is such a good fuel saver. I would be very surprised. Walton runs wide on that outside line. He is just trying to build up the run. 1 push to pass left for each of the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th place drivers. When will they use it? 6 laps to go. This is going to be crucial, Lewis.
Last lap of the race. You've got to leave it until then. You've got to be brave. You've got to be in control of your own destiny. And right now, that is exactly what's going to happen. Walton's going to do it the hard way. He's going to commit on the brakes. He's going to try and go around the outside. Not going to make it stick. Huge slide off the corner, though. That was massive, but it's certainly not over. It's just going to heat those rear tyres up. You've got plenty of time to bring those tyres back in. Azam didn't use his final one, did he?
No, he did, trying to defend from Kraus.
Right.
So Azam is out of the push to passes right now, and Walton has a job. 5 laps to cool his tires, close that gap back up to the 2 Team Talent drivers, and try and get a podium position. Because who can forget, Lewis, the heartbreak for Gustav Grimbergus last time around. Leading the race, coming to the white flag, just contact between him and Oscar Mangan dropped him to the end of the lead lap, and really a race that Gustav Grimbergus was one of the shining lights throughout what was a very stop-and-start affair.
It was a crazy round last time out. It was so up and down. It was absolutely all over the place. And you're right, it was a dramatic end that Simserl want to forget as a team. They'll want to pretend it didn't happen and just move on to the next round and focus and try and get a result. And the best way to forget something like that happening is to actually go out there and get a result. It may not be a win, but a podium would be a sensational effort, especially if, say for example, something happens, seeing 2 cars up on the podium.
Lorenzo, what are you seeing from the body language of that 93 car in 2nd?
I just saw Chin's car get wobbly out of the exit of the Canada corner, so I can assume that car's at its limit, and Walton now using the push to pass.
And Kraus responds, push to defend. Is it going to be push to pass for Kraus, though? Are they going to be 3 wide heading into turn number 5? This is a difficult braking zone down the hill. Walton supremely confident, and Chin's slow speed almost cost Kraus the position there. Walton slightly wide. He holds onto the car. The status quo remains, but it is going to be intense now for Kraus and Walton. No usages left to go. And really, it's Chin who, if he can hold on like this, Lewis, will be very, very happy.
They'll be cross with themselves, because that, I mean, you sat there thinking, wasted, absolutely wasted, a wasted opportunity. I mean, Kraus and Chin will probably be, more in the sense of, let's say, status quo in this scenario. Let's just hold 2nd and 3rd. Let's see what we can do. And so Kraus was more using it, like you say, as a push to defend rather than to pass. Chin was more just trying to hang on for now. And realistically, for Walton, he's just going to sit there and think, that was the one opportunity, that was the one go, and it didn't work.
We'll have to wait and see. Of course, now we'll get the double draft in effect, both into turn 1 and in towards turn 5. Don't count out that 172 car. He has been strong throughout the season, doesn't have the results to prove just how strong he's been. He is right on the rear wing of Phil Kraus, and you know what? If he keeps this up, he can go inside of turn number 1. Kraus will slightly cover him off, goes a bit more aggressive on the defense this time around. Long way for Walton. He's going to have to concede, but run down into turn 5. What for the 172? Kraus loses control. It's carnage, it's chaos, and Walton loses a potential podium just like that.
That is just horrifying. A massive crash. I mean, you were saying, Lorenzo, that Josh Chin was on the limit. Well, Phil Kraus looked very much on the limit. That is a terrible shame. Will it be a caution, though? We'll have to wait and see. I think they're all off the racing line, so it should be all right. That is a horror crash, Arjuna.
That is huge, and well, for Phil Kraus, he will be heartbroken. The hometown boy, only about an hour's drive from his hometown of Appleton, Wisconsin, to this wonderful facility in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin. That ends the hope of his chances of a podium as well. Azam will take that 3rd position, but in reality, let's assume that he gets a penalty. It's Pedro Sanchez Albert that is net 3rd position. And well, you can just see the rear end steps around. Kraus is trying to save that car, and Walton is just too close to do anything about it. And heartbreak once more for Simsa Esports.
Could maybe have lifted out of it a little bit, could maybe have tried to avoid it, but those kind of things, they happen so fast. You've been trying so hard to get onto the podium. You're going to try and keep your foot in. You're going to try and push it as far as possible. And unfortunately, I mean, you said it yourself, the results do not really line up realistically, and that's just one of those things. That's just how it goes. Alexander Walton has had such good pace, has shown it on occasion. The results just don't piece it together, and it's times like this where you think, oh yeah, that's why.
New damage model has really gotten a showcase here over the course of 5 races so far, and well, when we head to Indy, who knows how things will look. Albert gets on the button. He knows if he can close, he is looking like a potential podium finisher. Adam Crane is on the button. That is 16 seconds behind Sanchez Albert, so no real fight going on at that point in time between those cars. Really, though, the gap between 7th and 8th is only tenths of a second, and it is Cy Andre in the 24. We're watching now as he's chasing down Yao Vaz in front of him. What a day it's been so far, Lorenzo. Some big movers and shakers. Yao Vaz is 10 places gained from the start.
Yeah, what a day. One of the wackiest days you can possibly think of. And Vaz, nothing to do with it whatsoever. Coming between P17, clawing himself back into top 10. And look at the avoidance out of Ramez's arm. Just narrowly avoiding both cars because they actually, because of kinetic force, just went to the inside out of the turn number 1 and 2. And I would say I'm going to be bold. If he was about 0.3 of a second back than his initial gap, he would have been caught by that.
8 miles to go for your race leader as he comes across the line to mark 2 laps to go. 26 seconds clear. And I see a question in the chat, is Alander this good on the ovals too? Yes, he is. He should have finished second when we visited the Auto Club Speedway, if not for that last lap mistake that he made trying to get the victory from Christian Steele. He's only got 3 open wheel oval races under his belt. He is a talent, and he is someone that I don't even think is trying to qualify for the IR01 World Championship later this year. So he is a very quick open wheel driver, but we'll have to wait and see what his next step is going to be because, well, 1 hand on the championship, he'll make it 2 hands when he comes across the line, Lewis.
Like I say, every time we come back to this, we're stunned and stunned again by Valtteri Alander, and this is an important race for him. Now, this level of dominance, this was exactly what was on the menu for Valtteri Alander today. This was what he needed because, like we said before, won the first race of the season. It was actually kind of a little bit under the radar. That race just made the harder tyres work. Dominated Sebring, however, it was a close fight with Janssen, and then the last 2 races has been up there towards the front end, but has had issues, has had it not pieced together perfectly. Well, this race, this is exactly what we were expecting from Valtteri Alander last time. Now, this is exactly what realistically it should have been. It's just that nature of Long Beach. It's one of those tracks where it just throws wildcards into the open, and you've got oval racing to deal with as well. But now Valtteri Alander answering the call of being at the top end of a championship, and that's exactly what we're seeing. What is happening here with Yao Vaz?
Is he running low on fuel? That was the only thing that I could maybe speculate. Up the hill, he is very, very slow as the 89 car. Confusion here, and I would suspect he's in 6th gear trying to nurse this car around. It would have to be a fuel issue, I would suspect, for this car.
Maybe he can't. Can he not shift as his shift has failed? Because you'd still. Oh, there we go.
No.
Because the thing is, if you were trying to fuel save, as much as it sounds.
He's like, fuel saving.
But yeah, fair enough. It's just bizarre.
Bennett gets on through. The big winner is probably Ramez Azam because, again, if he does get that 30-second penalty, he might still have a top 5 finish. It should be full push to the line for Ramez Azam because if he can hold on, he will get some very solid points. It is white flag in the air. It is Valtteri Alander who is half a lap away from taking victory. And really, Lewis, the NTT IndyCar Series is all about being a well-rounded driver. You have to do the ovals, and there are so many different types of ovals when it comes to real-world IndyCar. You have to master the street courses. You have to master tracks like this, Road America, Barber Motorsports Park. There are so many different challenges, and really it is such a fun thing to see the drivers work their way through the 6-race season, this summer of IndyCar, and to figure out exactly how to get the most out of this IR18.
I mean, Valtteri Landa, whilst he may not be an oval specialist or a street circuit specialist or whatever, he has been at the front on both of those circuits, as well as here and the other normal road course races as well. So he's a driver who is showing that well-rounded individualness, and that's exactly what we've seen today in a dominant way.
2 victories to kick off the season, 2 disappointing results since then, but Valtteri Landa returns to victory lane in the ISOWC and crown him our series champion. You can see the smile on his face. That's the first smile we've seen since that side-by-side battle with Johan Hoth back in our season opener from Watkins Glen. What a season it's been. What a charge from Valtteri Landa. He has very much shown that the rest of the IndyCar guys need to step up their game and challenge the Flying Finn. For Joshua Chin, he will hold on to second position. The King of Chins might end up in a fight for second heading into our season finale, and the prize money, $750, that is on the line. Ramez Azam will cross in third, but of course potential post-race penalties. Who knows what that will do to him? There is still some fighting going on further down the pack. I think this is Andreas Eich and Peter Zuba in through the kink, and plenty of opportunity for Zuba to sneak into the top 10 here, Lewis.
Yeah, you've also got Oscar Mangan sat on the rear end, just obviously a day of what could have been for him, but maybe a little bit of fuel saving for others, and that's just it. Like the fuel mileage you get towards the end of the race, and you kind of question everything. Yao Vaz, by the way, I think might just about hang on to 13th spot, but that is a definite what could have been. After such a good drive up the order, that's a shame. That really is a shame.
And I think what happened there is he maybe just short-fueled the car because he's only 9 laps into his stint. A potential mistake there from a very strong driver. You can see Vaz drops down into 13th position. Maybe some timing screen glitches there as it just processes that final race result. Lorenzo, what a race. 50 laps here. Other than that first caution on lap number 1, it was pretty clean. Only a couple of incidents that I think race control will be having to review from this race. And really, what fun we've had here so far in 2021. Still one more round to go. We head for our pilgrimage to Speedway, Indiana.
Yeah, we head for the 200 laps around Indianapolis, and this race has been nothing short of amazing. You know, those strategy battles, undercut, overcut, going side by side, turn number 1 playing its job, you know, of taking drivers out of the race. Well, fortunate, but still it happens. It's racing. They're racing hard and racing fair, but that's kind of the proving of how strong Valtteri Landa is. Regardless of what car you're driving and regardless of what tire compound you're running, they basically won a masterclass from the number 77. And the fight for top 3 is going to be interesting because I think Pedro Albert and Joshua Chin might be head-to-head with the fumbles out of Mangan and Eich as well.
Is he going to burn the house down, or is he that close on fuel? Just like Yao Vaz, he has well and truly earned this celebration. 3 wins on the season. He is your 2021 ISOWC champion. Here are your unofficial race results, and Valtteri Landa almost 30 seconds clear of the rest of the field. Joshua Chin in second for the private label Team Hype with Team Talent. Ramez Azam completes the podium but might be staring at a drive-through penalty. Pedro Sanchez Albert would net third position then, but more crucially in that battle for second and $750 in the championship, he will leapfrog Oscar Mangan. Adam Crane finally gets the points that I think his performances have warranted. He gets a top 5 with Balislav Remenik, the highest of the Yas Heat drivers, in 6th position. Syandra makes it 2 VRS satellite racing cars in the top 10 with Henry Bennett, the 007, working his way up the field in towards 8th spot with Manuel Domingo and Andreas Eich rounding out the top 10. Manuel Domingo, one of our biggest movers, 14 positions gained. In 11th, it's Peter Zuba for Race Clutch and his teammate Pierre Verne in the podium spots last time around. He finishes down in 12th this time, but the biggest mover, 16 spots gained from where he started. Yao Vaz had to save some fuel in the closing stages. He nurses that car across the line in 13th with Brendan Lichtenberg and Bence Nemthi, the final cars on the leading lap. Severy Seppa, Austin Espity, and Andrew Marquez, Hugo Olsen, and Christopher Demerit round out the top 20 positions, with Alexander Van der Sant on debut in this ISOWC finishing in 21st spot. Oscar Mangan, after that self-inflicted mistake, will come home in 22nd, along with 2 other drivers who will be very, very disappointed. Philip Kraus, Alexander Walton, they came together in the closing laps of this race. They finished 23rd and 24th. Who can forget what happened to Isaac Morris end over end down the main straightaway? The 63 car finishes in 25th, but running up there in the top 10 at points in today's action. Watch out for him as we head to Speedway, Indiana. Technical failure for Riley Thompson. He finishes in 26th with Vilda Wallen a further couple of laps down after getting her vaccine yesterday. She had to, I think, pull to the side of the road because of some of the issues and the pain that sometimes you get from that COVID vaccine. Andrew Kinsella, 28th position for him, with Graham Saunders and Brian Carey, 29th and 30th positions. Just 2 more cars to go. It's Christian Steele in 31, with Carl E. Jansen, 32nd position. There is the celebrations, the championship celebrations from Valtteri Alander. And let's dive straight into our post-race interviews. Valtteri, congratulations. 3 victories on the season. You are the 2021 champion. Apparently so excited that we don't have a copy with him, so we'll try and wait for Valtteri to get up with us here in the booth. But Lewis, let's just recap what a dominant season it's been to him. We've talked about it throughout the course of the race. It really was a show, a championship-worthy drive over the course of 5 rounds.
Oh, I think we might have Valtteri Alander here now as well.
Okay.
So, there we go.
There we go. Valtteri, congratulations. 3 victories on the season. The championship is yours as well. We see a big smile on your face. Just how excited are you about domination here today?
Really excited. Finally, everything went well. Like, the last 2 races were so difficult for me. Own mistakes and stupid mistakes, but today was a really good day, and
I can tell you are excited. Are you more excited about the prize money or the custom diecast that you're now going to get made by George Simmons? You have a choice, by the way, if you want the road model car or the oval, so you better start thinking about that one.
to be honest, I'm more excited about the diecast car because it's something special. So, and to get the own livery there. So, yeah, I'll keep it on my table. So, yeah.
That's exactly what I do with mine as well. Talk to us though about this transition to the IR18, Valtteri, because you are a very quick driver, but not necessarily with too much experience here in the IndyCar. You've shown you were very strong on the ovals as well. Just how interesting has it been from your perspective to work with Core Sim Racing, to work with the Team Talent guys, to understand this car?
Yeah, it's been a great journey so far. Like, I have learned so much, especially on ovals, like for the Auto Club, what we did. I learned so much about oval racing. I don't have that much experience, so yeah. I have to say big thanks to Team Talent and Core guys for this season. It has been a great season, yeah.
Well, the floor is yours, Valtteri. I mean, you are the champion. Who all do you have to thank for this wonderful accomplishment?
Well, of course, our team, Kova, and the whole organization, and Iku, and today Matti here helping me. So, yeah, it's been, I don't know, there's so many who I want to thank, but yeah.
Congratulations.
Big thanks to everybody, let's say. Just
Congratulations, Valtteri. We'll see you then next week for ISOWC 500 qualifying. Go and enjoy your championship celebrations.
Yeah, thanks.
So that was Valtteri Alander, and there you can see he did burn the house down. Some very well-earned donuts. Let's dial up the King of Chins next. And Josh, you were looking like you were struggling in the closing portions of that race. Just how concerned were you about getting that car to the line, still on the podium? Unfortunately, contact between your teammate Phil Kraus and Alexander Walton did make it slightly easier for you.
Yeah, I was feeling a lot of heat there at the end. The undercut worked out pretty well early on, but it was kind of not playing out in my favor later, and the tires were basically gone. I kind of got saved, unfortunately, by that wreck with Phil and Alex. I think we maybe could have had a 1-2-3 because basically everyone was out of push to pass at that point. But unfortunately, Phil got loose, and that was the end of it for those two. But overall, can't be too mad at a second place, 1-2 for the setup.
And of course, you'll now head into that next round of the championship with a potential fight for second in this overall season and the $750 that goes along with it. I mean, the Indianapolis Oval is a place you are very, familiar with, the 2018 iRacing Indy 500 winner. What are your hopes heading there? Because obviously very similar weather for this upcoming qualifying as to what we saw in the month of May. How confident are you and the rest of the Team Talent guys feeling?
I think we'll have a decent shot. There's not a ton of development that's really happened in the last 2 months since Indy happened, but we felt fairly confident at the time, and I think we still can race pretty well, depending on how we get breaks with cautions and everything. So we'll have to see how it plays out, but I think we'll have a shot.
And before we let you go, Josh, I mean, you said it. You guys have been working with Valtteri over the course of the season. What makes him such a quick driver? You guys have been able to, help him on the ovals, but clearly he's a driver that learns things very, very quickly and doesn't need too much help from other people. He has been such a shining light on the season. He has worked with you guys. He is now our champion.
Yeah, I mean, it just shows that he's a world championship level talent. The guy he finds speed where none of us find it. Even guys like Carl and Oscar that are fairly high rating guys, racing in high level leagues currently, they can't get his level. So you can tell he's just that step above everyone else, and kind of it shows in the championship too. He's class of the field by far, and he does a lot of practice too. But definitely it does help. But he has just immense raw talent.
Thanks for joining us. Congratulations on your podium, and good luck this coming weekend in our ISOWC 500 qualifiers.
Thank you, guys.
So there was the King of Chins. One more interview to get to, and let's bring in Ramez Azam. Ramez, an up and down race for you, and after seeing your teammate getting involved in that last couple of lap incident, what were you thinking about trying to potentially challenge the King of Chins for second?
Hey guys. Yeah, I mean, I had a pretty good view of that battle in front. It was getting kind of intense, and I kind of saw something was going to happen. I hope I didn't get collected in it. Yeah, unlucky for Alex and Philip. It was they both deserved better than that. But yeah, I tried my best to catch Josh at the end, but my tires were dead. We pit on the same lap. Did my best, but yeah, I had to save a bit of fuel as well at the end. Couldn't do it.
Let's talk quickly about the start of the race and a 3-wide moment with you that is going to be under investigation come the end of this race. What were you thinking from your vantage point on that start? Of course, the only time that we start 2x2 in these races, it's always hectic. You're always scrambling for track position, and really it was just chaos down into turn number 1.
Yeah, I mean, I got the jump on both of them at the start, at the launch, the initial launch. I was watching Valtteri, and when he went, I went, and I got my nose in between them straight away. I didn't really want to lift, and I got a toe at the end, and I was fully alongside the car on my inside, and I didn't think I braked too late, but the car on the outside braked a lot later, and then I couldn't really turn right. I tried to just hold the middle, and yeah, I think I made contact with the car outside. Maybe netcode, I'm not sure, I didn't see it, but yeah, it was unlucky.
And you guys, I mean, I mentioned it during the broadcast, SIMSA as an organization has been quite strong from the season opener, just not necessarily getting the luck that you guys deserved. Of course, Gustas was very heartbreaking to see him lose that race victory last time around. What has been one of the challenges that you guys have had to deal with coming over to this IR18 with relatively little experience and competing against guys who have a lot more experience in this specific car?
Well, the three of us, we really like high downforce cars, so we like the LMP2, and coming into this car, it's something to learn, but at the end of the day, it's just a car, and we've been doing our best, and I think we're at a pretty good level, like compared to everybody except Valtteri, who's in a league of his own, and he really deserves a championship. I mean, we're learning every day with this car, with the setup. We're trying our best. We're a small team and quite new in iRacing, and yeah, we're doing our best. I'm pretty happy with how far we've come so far.
Great drive today, Ramez, and we'll see you then in 7 days' time for ISOWC 500 qualifiers. Go off and enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Thank you, guys. Thanks.
What a season it has been so far, but we have a champion. His name is Valtteri Alander. He is the Flying Finn. Before we say goodbye, let's get some final thoughts from both Lewis McLeod and Lorenzo Bondo. Lorenzo, let's start with you. First time up here in the comms booth. How fun was 50 laps here from one of the greatest tracks in the world?
Aside the biggest jinxes in the history of sim racing, I enjoyed this race quite so much. And again, seeing the strategies battles, the undercuts, the overcuts being done by the drivers, the side-by-sides into so many of the turns, Canada corner, Lorraine sweep, and turn number 1 was really entertaining to see. And I can't wait to see what the 200 laps around the Indianapolis circuit will do to these drivers. It's going to be a thrilling one to watch. But then again, congratulations to Valtteri. What a sensational season.
And for you, Lewis, I mean, 5 races in, the champion has been crowned. But again, the crown jewel, the one that I think everyone will want to win, 500 miles in Speedway, Indiana. That's going to be fun. And really, I'm starting to wonder, can Valtteri Alander take a 4th victory on the season?
Well, this is the thing, is that the 500 is a reset in itself. It's its own proper race. It's obviously a part of the championship. You score points there, but like you say, it's a crown jewel. It's that the special moment here, the likes of a 24-hour of Le Mans, or the likes of a Bathurst 1000, or anything in that vein. It is its own thing that you desperately want to win. You want to be on top of. And by the way, for any championship that I'm taking part in the future, I want Lorenzo Bonder on commentary, jinxing all of the people that I'm racing against, because it works fantastically well.
Well, the one man it didn't work on was the Flying Finn. He proved impenetrable here from Road America. Victory by almost 30 full seconds. 5 races done, 1 still to go. We have our pilgrimage to Speedway, Indiana. Qualifying next weekend, the race in 2 weekends' time. Join us July 31st for the season finale, live from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and you can catch all the action here live on RaceSpotTV. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and the bell next to it to get notified every single time we go live with a great sim racing series we get to cover. But for now, on behalf of the entire team at RaceSpotTV, for our producer Hugo Luis, for my co-commentators Lewis McLeod and Lorenzo Bonder, my name is Arjuna Kankipati. We'll see you in 2 weeks' time from Speedway, Indiana.